Greetings and salutations, Ben here, and welcome to Canucks with Guitars, presented by these people right there. Perfect. There we go. Special guest Pete Thorn. He's currently driving right now, running a little late. He will join us, hopefully at the bottom of the hour, we're hoping. And we may have a co-host to help with bandwidth in the meantime, just saying. It may happen. It may not. It may happen. It may not. Let's get rid of that there. We don't need that. We don't need that. Let's see. Let's go to roll call. Who do we have in here so far? We have Thomas Santiago. Thomas Santiago. Thomas Santiago. Thomas Santiago. We have Dan of New Jersey. We have Matthew Stewart. T. Ricky. Sessions with Jeff. Terry's 3Gs. Moderator to the stars. And sometimes slumming out with us. Yeah, imagine that. AQ Music, Billy Baloney, Absolute Mayhem is, yep, you're at the right spot tonight. The Hitman, Dwight Bailey. Luke's is back. Great to see you, Luke's. Yo. Mark Effects, JP Page 2, Vince RJ Mad Raj. Craig Tomlinson, doing roll call at the moment. I'll get to that after the roll call. Martin Lemaire, James Pava, Hit Metal Works, Bent Tom, another co-host. Let's see. Dale at the beginning. Exactly. Why? Because Dale Palmer's here. Charles 75N. iRock Z Blues. Tom.
Better late than never.
Nice. And Terry wanted to jump in for a bit before we start with Pete as well. So hang on. We have the technology. Terry's all of a sudden, send me the link. I can help too, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I was texting you for about.
You know what's so funny? This is good for future generations that people feel this way. So my son is 14. He's going to be 15 in 2 weeks. And he was like, "Are you getting on with Pete Thorn?" And I was like, "No. Ben's just interviewing him." I said, "I'm just coming on until he comes on, and I'm going to tag out." And he's like, "Oh, I wanted to meet Pete Thorn." Like, he's such a huge Pete Thorn fan. He goes, "Just like maybe I can like meet him for my birthday." I'm like, it's Ben's show. Okay, I get it. It's a serious thing. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I want to meet Pete Thorn." Like, and it's not like a star thing. Like, he just loves his guitar playing. I was like, that's good for like future generation that like a 14-year-old is like, I want to meet Pete Thorn, like.
And let's see. I'm going to continue with roll call as Terry's apparently in a cave tonight. Hello? Are you in there?
Terry!
We've got Craig Tomlinson, BC Rich 581, but number one in my heart. The pride of Maryland himself. My lovely sister Amanda is here. Let's see here. Floopty-Doo was at the show Saturday night. He said it was awesome.
Nice.
Sir Lawrence of the Pedals is here. Milt's here. Frosty's here.
There was some good footage
Rob
online.
212, Janice is here. Guitar Man 45, Christopher Neiman, I think. Mahogany. BC Rich 5 is Terry's developing film, apparently. I dig it. This is not Pete. Pete's running late, as for those that are joining in. I need to have a ticker that just goes, Pete's running late. This is not clickbait. This is not a scam. Dave Ennis is here. James, it's funny how life gets. You miss a couple of shows and all of a sudden, bam!
Thank you, James.
Got a beard.
Dude, I had the best day ever. I get to be paid to go on a 6th grade field trip, and it was the nature field trip. So it was archery, canoeing, water studies, because they have to make it somewhat educational. Like then a bunch of team building exercises where I just got to talk to other teachers while kids did team building. Like ropes courses and stuff. Hey, Dave Ennis.
Well, I think Terry's doing tech support while he's on the show, sis. Yes, Terry does not have a silent keyboard.
Oh, mine's the same. Listen.
It's just I got the mic like lower than
right
normal. There. Now you can see the
Terry, once you
filter.
go old school click keyboard though, you can't go back, can you?
Um,
I have a tough time. I mean, I shouldn't say you can't, but I'm saying like for me.
Nice.
You know-
Jeff Rock's here. Late night in the UK. I love
Hey,
our
Janice.
UK presence. We always have a handful of insomniacs each week. And it's not the same handful of
What part
insomniacs.
of the UK are you in, Jeff? I'm just curious. I lived there for a very short period of time, around like 2001-ish.
And I do want to say one note. I have two RJ things. One is
Cool.
Matt Raj is here. And I'm just going to let people know I knew about and saw a video of Mad Raj before I ever saw an RJ Ronquillo video.
Nice.
He's the OG RJ. OG RJ?
Mhm.
Sure, let's go with that. And speaking of which, yes, it was funny yesterday in Pete's chat, those that were in there live, Pete mentioned he was coming on the show tonight. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be on the Ben Coombs channel, blah, blah, blah. And this guy in the chat's like, Ben Coombs, like, RJ Ronquillo's Ben Coombs?
That's so funny. You told me that.
That's awesome.
Oh, North Wales. Cool.
Nice. Seconds with Jeff says this is one of the few shows that's a good time. We do get an Aussie contingent as well.
Welsh.
Excuse me. Haas is in here, or John.
Hey, Lawrence of the Pedals. Yeah, I've only met a couple Welsh people, but they were all really nice. Like, oh, you want to come over and have a meal at my house? Kind of like, I don't even know you, but super friendly.
As for what you were saying there before, Tom, actually, I would have loved to have gotten another Microsoft Natural keyboard.
Okay.
But again, those keyboards are hard to find, and
Are they
not
is it the ergonomic one?
Yeah, the one with the ergonomic with the split.
I used to have one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're not exactly great gamer keyboards, so that's why I went with this Razer. Is it a Black Widow or something like that? It's called.
I couldn't even tell you what mine is. I'll tell you in a second. Let's
see. We've got Symmetry joining in. Randy Crooks is here.
A Logitech G413 Carbon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm
mechanical.
If I seem distracted, I'm texting with Pete. So I'm hoping he's not driving, or he's at least at a stoplight.
And then again,
doesn't he have a Tesla, Tom?
I have this mouse. Yes, I think he does. Yes, he does have a Tesla.
Okay, so he can text and drive, because he's like in Pasadena, and they
have like a giant screen interface. It's very cool. Teslas. That was weird. That echoed like a reverb when you put your keyboard down.
So Jeff Rock's out of North Wales. Nice. Very nice. They came out with an ergonomic guitar that people would freak out. Didn't they have that one, like, it wasn't Casio, but it was electronic company, like you strummed this way, but the neck was up this way? Like, you know what I mean? So there was like an angle to it.
Ooh.
And that was supposed to be ergonomically correct.
That's
and I was
weird.
like, it's the 80s. Who knows? So
I'll be right back.
You do you, Tom. Pete is on his way. Let's see. Has he seen the link? He has seen the link, so he is aware of the link. So, yes. Terry, when's the last time you opened for Pete Thorn? It's been a minute.
I think it's been a long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away?
In another lifetime, maybe, when he was in another another life. Maybe then. Otherwise.
Nice. We've got breaking news. Apparently, Gear Junkie 35 shamelessly promoting, and I allow it because he just did a live unboxing of a nice drive, eh?
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I'll have to check that out. Klein Guitars. That could have been it. Right, that's just him saying, "Oh, okay," again. Yeah, well, we know you saw it.
And yeah, getting back to the dark theme. Well, maybe I should go back to like how it was old school for me back in the day when I was living downstairs.
My sister is shamelessly promoting Gear Junkie 35, and maybe one of the mods can throw a link to Gear Junkie 35's channel in the chat. I recommend checking it out. And we should get together for a hang. Hit me up, Gear Junkie 35. What's up, Buzz? I'm allowing the clicking because you guys are working. I suppose I could have done it, but I didn't feel like it.
I'm done clicking for now, so all good.
Yes, BC Rich. Terry lived under the stairs like in Harry Potter. And then he grew his wings.
And I did not require Red Bull to do it.
And Billy got his nice drive A on Saturday. And yes, there are ones still available. I always have the link open here as a tab because I didn't know if either of you guys have saved this as a link. I say you guys as in the moderators. I could throw it in because it's not, I don't have it. I should probably put a link to it in the videos or something. I don't know.
That might be a good
idea. Post a link
idea.
from the StreamYard chat. Let's see what happens. Does it allow it? Seems to allow it.
Are you letting the ham go to your head, Ben?
I may have.
How was your Thanksgiving today, gentlemen? I didn't ask you.
Nice. I baked a ham.
Nice.
I baked a ham and I did potatoes and corn because that's all I wanted. And Dad did not object, and it was good. And you know what? Ham is a lot easier to cook than a turkey. So,
oh, yeah.
I mean, whatever you're going to enjoy, I mean, who cares if it's traditional or not, right? Like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to have, I know people that just have ribs, like, on Thanksgiving.
Milk just up to Gear Junkie 35. Yeah. Nice.
Me too. I just want
to... Billy's baked like a ham. Sure. And yes, Amanda has leftovers turkey and stuffing for me. Yes.
Nice. And myself, well, nothing today because none of my family is close.
Right.
But last night I did hint that actually House of Twang invited me down with him and his family for turkey dinner. So
yeah,
that's where I was last night.
He was watching from over there last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And last night was a fun show. Thanks again, Steve from Boston, for coming on. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Symmetry says his turkey's only 75% done. Well, that's fine because it's only 5:15 where you are.
There you go.
That's
nice.
Not a bad
RJ
thing.
had Chinese food for Thanksgiving with clan. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Exactly.
Steve is a scream. Yeah.
Prime rib, good alternative. There you go. Chinese food for Thanksgiving.
You know what I'm going to do also while we're waiting on
Billy Bologna is baked like a ham.
Pete to show up is I'm going to shout out the patrons on Patreon.
I always want to say the Patreons on Patreon.
So do I, and that's why I So if you would like to become a patron on Patreon.
Not to be confused with Patillatron, the exercise.
There is a link in the video description that you can click on as well to bring it up. So I would like to shout out Guitar Man 45, Symmetry, Paul McNary, because you get a shout out. Channel members, you guys have toques next to you and such. The patrons, they're just like the silent supporters. Mickey Sotomayor, Joe C, Keith H, Knucklehead Zero, unfucking believable, who upped his game in the Patreon department. I didn't know you could do that, but he did it. So thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Charles 75N, John ZD351, JP Page 2, Jose Benito Martinez Jr., Fruitcake Tony, Bent Tom, Blackjack Guitar, Grumpy Mike Guitar, Craig T. Nelson. Nope. Craig Tomlinson. Right. 2 weeks in a row. Perfect. Todd Flowers, Charles Green, Brad Guitar Miller, Absolute Mayhem, who's in the right lobby tonight, Other Left, and of course, our good friend, the Iowa assassin, Randy Crooks himself.
Oh, Sean Pierce Johnson, welcome in.
SPJ in the house. SPJ is going to be the guest on the hang this coming Sunday. John Duchesne is here. And Nerd Halen is here.
Hey, John.
Whole West Coast contingent. Huh? And Zach Thong, local. Perfect.
Batman on Sunday, live from the Batcave.
That's right. And my sister wants to shamelessly plug too. Whenever she does a video, it's out for just patrons, yes, and channel members. Which we have to do another one soon because we should at some point. Double dippers are noticed twice, Randy Crooks, and there is a few of you fine folks that are double dippers. That's someone that's both a channel member and a patron. And I
double
do appreciate
dipping.
it. Yep. Awesome
Extra,
so yes, for those that are just tuning in, Pete is running late. He will be on shortly. So he has seen the link. He has seen the link, folks. And since he uses StreamYard on his stuff, he's aware of how it works. Listening as you're performing Alfred duties. He's got the night off. I hear you, Sean. Keep one eye out the window in case you get a signal. John DeShane says, am I a channel member? It does not. You don't have a toque next to you or anything. So I guess not. There's a link down below if you'd like to be. Join button. It's that easy.
I guess SPJ is in the cat house with Catwoman.
Ooh. Chris R. Finally caught your live stream. Good afternoon from California, my friend. Good afternoon to you, Chris R.
Nice.
Bright Guitar Miller reports in a nice 62 Strat on Antiques Roadshow, Sonic Blue for 60 grand.
Oh, great color. Great color.
That is a great color.
It's all about the color.
Pre-CBS. You don't hear that term as much anymore. It's just now vintage.
Yeah.
Deja Blue.
You know my
Tom's not Pete Thorn. No, he's not.
Hey, Scott Brockway. My favorite era for Strats, actually, and I know some people are just totally against this, but mine is late 65, the beginning of big headstock, or you can say early 66, depending, there's people that know way more about it than me, but basically 66 to 69. I'll include maybe the early 70s. It's still a 4-bolt, but big headstock, but no bullet, truss rod. Those are my favorites. The 69
Chat's
I have.
flying by. Either that or I just can't quite have the dexterity to click. Thank you, Thunder Falcon. Became a new channel member.
Awesome.
And John DeShane. Bam, bam. It was like a double barrel of membership. Awesome. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Nice.
So you get a logo next to you for now. Your toque's in the mail, right, Tom? The virtual toque's in the mail. You'll get it in about a month. I think that's
a guy I know has a 66 that he bought from. There's a YouTuber. I'm trying to think what his name is. He does like blues kind of stuff. He's out of Texas. Matthew something. He always does vintage like Fenders and some vintage Gibsons and all vintage Fender amps. Like he's got like a 59 Bassman, a 60
Even though I don't
Bassman,
need it in any way, shape, or form, I shall celebrate the new channel members. I was already pre-celebrating hanging the dank green room, we'll call it.
Nice.
Because most channels have the green room, but we have the dank.
I think his name's Matthew Scott. I think that's his name.
Yes, okay. He has the vintage Les Paul.
Yeah. So
interesting. Yeah. I was going to say this is 2 days in a row his channel's been mentioned on another channel.
I watched
as referenced in last night's chat. I had commented how T. Woodford hadn't put out a new video this past weekend. And somebody said, yeah, he did, actually, about 20 minutes ago. I was, so guess what I did after the show last night? I watched that. And he had mentioned Matthew Scott, because he was actually mentioning the guy who did the work on Matthew's Les Paul.
Yep.
And the level of craftsmanship it takes to do that stuff.
It was really jacked up, yep.
Yeah. So, because it got to the point where it's all great that someone can do work that great, but you got to assume that the guy who gets the work done and then sells the guitar, and then that person who sells the guitar is honest that this isn't original. This is repop, essentially. Yeah. It's like a guy who does a refinish on a guitar so well that in 10 years you can't tell it's a refin, and then you're selling a refin as a good quality original.
Yeah.
That's great vape. Randy Crooks has some great vape. Nice.
But yeah, this guy I know bought a 66 Strat from Matthew Scott. And it was a refin, but it's, a really old, like a 70s refin on a 66 Strat. And it's like almost like a shoreline gold. It's gorgeous. Sounds phenomenal. Like quarter sawn neck, which is, you don't see as many back then.
We got another question here. Mike Capsamalis. Yes. Always. You know what? I virtually pat myself on the back every time I get his name right. He asked, did Pete already play the Eddie tribute gig? Yes, that gig was on Saturday night. And he went live yesterday from the airport, waiting to return home, hanging out with Dan. Can't remember Dan's last name, bass player for the Drills, and he was also playing bass for this gig. Fellow Canuck, and from Sarnia. So I think Pete Thorn has set a record for having guests back-to-back weeks, Terry, from Sarnia. Because what other channel, other than a Sarnia-based channel, would have guests back-to-back weeks from Sarnia? No disrespect to those who live in the greater Sarnia area, but...
Yeah,
really?
that definitely would be rare.
Yeah.
Deja
It's
Blue,
not a big town, Tom, is what I'm saying.
That's who I was talking about, the Matthew Scott. Oh, they're all within this really small area.
Exactly, Deja Blue.
A man has Gatorade.
Dandruff. Thank you, Lucky Maze Music. And good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, actually, speaking of Fender guitar colors, I've been still continuously watching Instagram and actually watching the gentleman who is the custom shop painter. And he has posted some amazing video.
What's his name, Terry? Because I'm gonna open a separate window and put
What's up,
that
Michael
in there
B?
now. Because I don't want to forget this time. What's the guy's name?
Donnie Lovett in the house.
He doesn't have a specific name, but I will get you that info here in a...
Oh, no hurry. I mean, whenever later.
Shout out to Donnie Lovett, because he reminds me there is another contingent, Tom, a less vocal contingent, and that is our truckers around the world that listen to our live streams as podcasts, basically, because they're driving while listening, lurking while working. Donnie Lovett. He's been around for years.
So should I, like, once in a while in the background go like...
All right. What? You got to play 4 pentatonic scales and diminishing minors.
all on different... each one has to be on a different LPD pedal.
Isn't it great, Flip, you do?
12 keys. No, I just want you to do it in the circle of fifths.
Anyone ever heard of Dean Zielinski guitar? Yes.
Yes.
I don't recall.
Dean Zielinski guitar occurred right after him and
did we say
Jeff split.
The one and only. Unbelievable. Your penance for being late is to mail Ben Coombs 1 LPD pedal of his choice, right, Ben?
Okay, because you know what, Tom?
Yeah, the one that has... Yeah,
I know how in his personal collection he has several that. I'd be like
Sharpie on them with no actual manufacturer label. Yeah,
that's the one.
Like that one. Yeah.
Although actually, you know what? He has a mulligan for being late because when we were trying to figure out that Raven guitar last night, he was quick with the links and shot me one through Messenger to check it out because I couldn't find it in a Google search. So he's forgiven.
For me, stuff happens, but I hate when people are late and give you no information. That's my pet peeve, when there's no communication. If you call and say, hey, look, truck broke down, it's not going to be an hour, it's going to be 4 hours. Well, that's fine. You called and told me as soon as you knew. But if you are supposed to be here an hour ago and you go, oh, it's still 2 more hours, then I'm going to be annoyed.
Unbelievable. I already have a lost Dutchman. I'm good.
Tom, the links in the private chat for those that are curious to see the Fender Custom Shop colors and how they go about making them. You want to go on Instagram and you want to look up JN Color, all lowercase, all together.
And the guy's name is Jay Nelson.
There we go. What was I going to mention also?
Wow, Terry, thank you. This is really cool. That fuchsia one. Ooh.
We got 75 people watching. I do want to reiterate, Pete Thorn is running late, and that's why we have the usual crew here. And
Ocean Turtle Spark Boys. That's what Fender calls Rontilio. Ocean Turtle Spark Boys. I got to remember that.
There you go.
Ocean turquoise sparkle. Gotta get the order right.
We do got a question.
Good.
We just call it Rontilio, right, Ben?
Yep.
Hang on.
What's the question? The Lexus?
There we go. Do you guys... There we go. Have any advice? All right. Do you guys have any advice for conquering jitters when you play live for people? I'm fine in practice, but as soon as we play for friends, I get very self-conscious.
I'm the same way.
Interestingly enough, yes. Actually, anytime I've actually had the House of Twang over showing him a guitar or something, I cannot play notes right. If I go to his place, it's not so bad, but to have him over here and do so, it's like crazy. So, the only thing I would maybe suggest is if you do it, maybe a good quick stiff drink.
Well, let's see. Thoughts on that, Mr. Thorne?
I heard something about beverages. That's all
performing live, yeah, performance-enhancing beverages work for me. I was going to say, I drink. I have a pop or two, and that's what gets over the jitters of performing live, especially in front of friends.
You guys waste no time. You're like, I period, and then boom, I'm in the chat. Yeah, I heard like beverages, and then or whatever you said. Yeah, now here I am. Do I like to drink before playing? Is that the question?
Well, the gentleman has jitters. He's okay in practice, but when he gets out to perform live, he has a bit of the jitters.
I like one sometimes, and sometimes it depends on how comfortable I am on the gig. If I'm comfortable on the gig, I can have one before the gig, and then it almost helps me just ease into the, a glass of wine or something. I'm good with that, or it's cool. But then if I don't know if it's like, brand new gig or something, there's I generally won't. And then like maybe 3/4 of the way through the show or for the encore or something, maybe, all right, can somebody get me a, and then maybe, that's how I roll.
That works for me. Here we are, folks. Mr. Pete Thorn, fellow Canuck with guitars, hosting Pete Thorn live, and apparently jet setting, playing EVH music in Florida. And we had reported in Floop-de-Doo here in the chat, was at the show Saturday night and said it was awesome. So
no shit, really?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody in the chat. Cool. Yeah, we had a blast. It was really fun. I've never done that before, like a whole set of Van Halen music. It was a challenge. I worked really hard leading up to it, and then worked hard there for a week. Well, hardly working, like, because it was. We stayed in this great house. The house itself was it was an older house, but it happened to be right on the beach. And so that was great. Nice. Like, go to rehearsals and stuff, and then at night come back to the house, and it had like deck chairs just looking out over the sea. It was amazing. Go there and look at the stars and chill out with a beverage before going to bed and just decompress. And it was really fun. All the band guys were great. Just killer players and sweethearts of guys, just terrific, nice guys. And a lot of fun was had by all. It was a little bit of stress and chaos getting it all together and stuff like that. But then we had a really good time at the show, and that's what matters, I think. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Got good buddy Rob in here from Tesi Switch. He was on here last week. He was gigging as well.
Cool.
In Florida. He plays in a Kid Rock tribute act, Kid Kentucky.
Cool.
That's actually a cool name.
It is. Yes. And I want to introduce Pete. Tom is Bent Tom in your chat most Sundays. He asks a variety of questions. And usually has some good amp info. You guys are debating back and forth quite often. And of course, Terry's 3Gs, who's in your chat quite often as well.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Now I'm putting faces to names, of course. So, okay, great.
I watch all of your stuff, Pete, religiously since you were in the small house and you were doing the like the little Badger 30 demos and stuff, like first videos.
Long
That's
time
when I
ago.
started watching your channel.
Yeah, we're going back 13, 14 years for sure. Then.
Yeah.
We're older.
I've seen
now.
every video you've ever done. Yeah.
Oh man, thanks. Well,
yeah, I mean, and I watched about 5 songs from the concert. The Van Halen experience you did. And, man, you just nailed it, dude.
Oh, thanks, man.
Like but there's one thing, and you know this from your years and from your career. There's one thing to nail the parts, but you weren't nailing them on 80%. You had them 100%, and the flash was there, everything, like the showmanship, like you look like you were just having I'm like, how's he playing parts that hard and you look like you were having a blast?
Well, because a few people reminded me, actually, and I knew this, but it's great to have your friends remind you. If you have to do the smile thing if you're going to do it, like
you threw in like the live, like there's a live lick from one of the 81 shows that you threw in. I was like, yes, like you threw it in. I was like, oh man, like it was like the tap sliding stuff that he had changed. He had kind of updated since the album. He had done it live that way.
And, yeah, it's so much fun, man, to play that. Music. You can't. I mean, imagine.
That band was smoking.
Yeah, the drummer Wayne and Dan, the bass player Dan Spree from Phil X and the Drills. He sang great, and they're just like really like we were all like kids. It felt like being 14, playing. Yeah. That's what it felt like. It was really fun.
You guys nailed it, man. The only thing that was upsetting was I couldn't be there, but other than that, I mean, it was through the miracle of YouTube. I mean, what I saw was phenomenal.
Yeah, I wish everybody could have been there. That is a fan, because it's just the we all grew up with it, so it's like how fun, everybody, these are all pro guys, like the drummer plays, Keith Urban, all kinds of people, and he's a big session Nashville player and stuff, and it was like, you want to go play Van Halen? You go for a week, it's like, yeah. like we're like, yeah, like you're 14 again, of course we're gonna do that, and sure. So, like, the chance to go do it, so much fun.
Well, it was. I always watch Andy Wood when he does live streams because I mean he's just. I think he's a brilliant player, and he's talking about he had not touched an electric guitar until he was like 16 or 17 or 18 or and obviously his acoustic chops, his mandolin chops, all that stuff was insane. He was doing all bluegrass before then, so it wasn't like he couldn't play. But he's like, I hadn't played rock music, and it blows my mind. And he goes, but when I found Van Halen, my country life for a period of time was over. Like, that's all I did. And he goes, that's the one thing in Nashville. He goes, you could go to you can go to Tom Bukovac. And he's like, do you want to play some Van Halen? Hell yeah, I want to play some Van Halen. Like, doesn't matter who it is. Like, everyone wants to play some Van Halen.
I'll tell you a funny story about Andy. Like,
I'm just going to get to the super chat really quick. Happy Thanksgiving all from Absolute Mayhem, who's one of my partners in crime. In the spirit of giving, can we get a shout out to Cayenne from Pete Thorn's biggest fan?
Oh, wow. Wow. What's up, Cayenne?
That's my son.
Oh, cool.
And Mayhem did that in the spirit of Thanksgiving. We also have Jay Mellowhead Hannon in the house. Hey now, Jay. Yeah. Sorry. So, Pete, you were saying?
Oh, I was just going to tell you a funny Andy story. Like, when I first met him, it was probably 2007 or 2008, and we did a Sir Clinic together, which was terrifying because he's, like, amazing. But we did this clinic where we both played back-to-back, and it was really fun. But I remember saying to him, he's playing something, he's doing some hybrid picking thing, and I'm like, how did you figure that out? Like, how do you do that, And he said to me without dropping a beat, he said, I've never had relations with a female before.
his sense,
like he's been in the room practicing and just done nothing else. It was so funny. He just deadpanned it, But I was just like, God, man, how do you get like? But that actually explains a lot. I didn't know that he only till 16 was, D28 probably. I'm just playing bluegrass and then crazy mandolin, and that'll build your you're playing on 12s or 13s and just right. There you go. You're set for life now if you get to
Yeah, and his technique, is just flawless. It's like,
he's ridiculous, and he can play. He's a unique because he's got that 1 foot in rock and 1 in country and bluegrass, and that bodes well for being really versatile.
Yeah, it's great. He does these live streams. He'll have like a Cerebella, and then he'll have like a diesel VH4 or like an EVH amp, or
Totally pick up the D28 and rip, and then metal 7-string you can do all that. It's great.
So I wanted to mention, Pete, last weekend you had the Pride of Sarnia on, and you got to do. I'm gonna say, because I was searching around for Kim Mitchell stuff on the YouTube here, and there's not a whole lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I think you might have done one of the definitive Kim Mitchell interviews in many ways, but it was just such a laid back hang that it came out so naturally.
Wasn't it nice? I mean, he's, obviously 10 years in radio. And so I almost felt like when we started, like, and I was like, I wonder if this is going to happen. But I almost felt like he was interviewing me, which he's going to get into that role, easily. But it was such a great, was awesome. And I was like, no, I had to keep trying to turn it because folks want to know about what, your whole, like, not me, but it was so nice and just such a nice hang. And he's such a inspiration to me. Like a little while ago, Phil X had actually hit me up and said, Kim wants your number and he wants to ask you, like, talk to you about amps and stuff like that. Because I guess he watches YouTube. Like he said that in, he's like, I'm up at 4 a.m. watching YouTube. Sure. And
puts it on his TV.
Like any of us.
I'm sorry?
He puts it on his TV. He said in the living room, he goes, I put it on that TV right there. That was when he said that, I was like, yes.
I know, yeah.
One of us.
Total guitar nerd. So I was, I was like, of course, please, like, are you kidding, Kim Mitchell? And so then we ended up texting and talking back and forth about amps and stuff, which was amazing. And then I was like, God, I got to listen to some Kim Mitchell. So I went and put on a Kimbo logo, of course, and listened to it in the car one night on a long drive. And I was like, I hadn't listened to it in a long time. And then I remembered that in my first car, I had the cassette, and I used to listen to it when I was 16. And I was like, I put it on, of course, All We Are and Go for Soda and stuff. I did those songs, of course, everybody, if you're Canadian, our age stuff, those tunes, but it was all the deep cuts, like Caroline, which I brought up on the interview and stuff, and Rumor Has It and all these crazy songs, and I know every note and every lyric and every drum fill and every bass part. It's like, God, I hadn't heard it in like a lot of it, probably like 30 years or something. And here I'm listening to it, and it's like it all, those neurons are firing, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot like what a big part of my musical development. Like I played this shit out of this record, and just so into it. And then subsequent, Rockland and stuff afterwards and stuff too. And it just means so much to me. So such a like crazy, unique, like I asked him about Rumor Has It, like how the hell did that? And he's talking about Keith. He told that great Keith Richards story.
Right.
Keith came and that's some fire rock and roll, man. When he heard it coming out of the studio, it's so cool. Like, because it is far. I was like, how did you come up with that track? So crazy.
Yeah, I was just saying to Ben after the fact, I said, I haven't watched a whole lot of or heard a whole lot of Kim Mitchell interviews, but yeah, that interview you did with him was probably one of the most best that I've heard to date.
Wow.
Because of how much range you covered with him, and I was just like, wow, it was like awesome. So it's awesome that you got to do that.
For a week leading up, I just kept, if I was driving in the car or like walking down the street or wherever I'd be, I'd think of a question or something. Oh yeah, you got to ask. And then I'd write it. I keep in notes on my phone so that I could make a list of everything that I wanted to get to. And I didn't get to everything, but most of it,
Well, I remember he said something to the effect of, oh, you did your research. You really know about me. And you were like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I figure it's only, out of respect and just for one of my heroes, honestly. It was like, he's such a legend. I mean, just what a unique individual,
And the crazy thing is, he still will play every town, like in small town Ontario, throughout a summer. It's like,
sure.
You know how it is growing up. There's a fair in every damn town, a different week. And Kim Mitchell plays 20% of them. He's the headline act that comes in, for the big act. And it's just like, sure, like who hasn't seen Kim Mitchell live, basically? Because I can literally think of where I am, 100 miles east of Toronto. He played at least 8 venues within 45 minutes of here at some point or other in the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's great.
All those junior A hockey rinks.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the only time I actually did see him play live was, I think, probably about 10, 15 years ago. He actually played the New Year's Eve countdown for the city of Barrie.
Barrie, Ontario, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I saw him once. That was it. I mean, in Edmonton, I saw him in '89. Remember, and that was great. Alana Miles opening, as I remember.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I had great seats. It was at Jubilee Auditorium where I graduated from high school as well, because I was kept from a great big high school with a huge graduating class, and they needed to rent an auditorium for it. And that was where I graduated, and that's where I saw Kim Mitchell about a year before I probably graduated or something. So, yeah, awesome. Cool, man. Maybe the same year, actually, 89. I graduated in 89. So,
yeah, that's right. My sister likes to rub it in. She saw Kim open for Steve Winwood and Peter Frampton.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
And I had made the comment, I think, to Terry and to Tom, both, and to my sister, after watching, I was like, Kim is like Canada's Peter Frampton in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
He's a nerd too.
Yeah.
And he came from a band like Humble Pie, and then went on to a successful solo. That's very true. And Peter's he was one of the other guys I had on my channel that was terrific to interview. He's
your only live stream my mom ever watched.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, when she said, "Oh, I'm watching that," because she's loved him since the Humble Pie days.
Yeah,
so
he's such a legend, man. We're talking about a great guy. They've got a lot in common. I bet those two guys would hit it. I mean, maybe they know one another. I don't know, but if they haven't, gotten to know, they'd be like fast friends.
Oh yeah,
because they're both great guys. I was going to say, BC Rich has asked me a question. You had to bring up my age, BC Rich, in the chat there. I'm happy, man. I'm happy where I am. He's asking if I'm where I thought I'd be. I'm lucky, man. I mean, we get to hang here, be friends, and hang out.
Sure.
Get to play guitar for a living. And I guess you never necessarily end up where you thought you might, but if part of being a musician, I think, is being flexible, modifying your approach along the way to, because we couldn't have foreseen, for instance, the internet when I started playing guitar.
Right.
So, then your career changes. Oh, there's this thing that like opens up a whole world of,
both good
I had
and
a friend in the studio before I was here, and he's now mixing in Atmos and Dolby Atmos.
Oh, wow.
And it was showing me some of that world. And it's like, wow, the studio is really changing. Like, when I was in there, it's like, if this becomes a standard, it's very different. It's like, oh, things are moving forward in the way that people are maybe going to listen to music in 15 years. I mean, we'll see if it catches on, but
sure.
It's interesting.
I'd say a lot of people, I'll say it, our age, a lot of people, like, even if you had that hit in your early 20s or a couple of, would you still have the career you have now at this age? A lot, crash and burn, right? And out completely. You're off doing real estate development or something. You're completely out of music by the time you're in your 40s.
I met a couple guys while I was in Florida that are big. One fella had written 2 great big hit, like number ones for Jason Aldean, and a number one, I think, for, is it Bentley? What's the fella's name? I'm sorry. Dirks Bentley.
Dirks Bentley, yeah.
I think he wrote one.
I don't know his music, but I've drank in his bar.
There you go.
But yeah, he was an interesting cat because he's like, I think he's probably mid to late 20s, and here he's written like 3 number ones, and he's an artist in his own right. And he was really helpful on this gig we just did. He kind of jumped in because he saw we needed some help with some things. I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. And there's another fellow there, Greg, similar writer, artist, has a publishing deal, I think, and some big stuff going on, and was also very helpful. So, that it's like I see the writing on the wall being, you got to be versatile and throw 100 things at the wall and see what sticks. It's not the thing anymore where you can just be, well, maybe some people, if you have a big enough hit, I guess, and it really carries you through, you can just be this Svengali artist, but the rest of us are working.
Yeah.
Music, working stiffs, right? Playing like, sorry.
No, I was going to say, it seems like you have to be much more diversified these days. You
I think so.
Can't just,
I think so. If you want to kind of make, that keeps you busy and keeps you diversified. Maybe used to mean like you play a bunch of different kinds of music, or you're proficient on lap steel as well as on guitar, and you can sing and maybe play or something like that. And now it means like diversified means like you go to rocking YouTube, and you put out solo music, and then you also tour as a sideman, and you write songs for other. I don't know. It's just like it's a huge range of stuff.
Well, it's just like when back in day one when it was all DIY. You had to learn your own music, write your own music, promote your own band, find the gigs. You were doing it all yourself. So it's kind of the same but different in many ways.
Yeah.
Just, you're doing different roles, but in the sense, and
that's it.
Yeah.
Eric
hey,
is
Cameron Brown.
Hey,
Eric's
Cameron,
asking what age
man?
I lost my Canadian accent at, eh?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about, eh?
We were just talking about Ben's nice drive A. I mean, the full name is Nice Drive A.
Hey, that's a nice drive, eh?
That's a nice drive, eh?
Which
He's working on
available. We know Lawrence is currently probably soldering some up as we speak, because he said in the chat
second
earlier. But
oh yeah, I like that.
is
Keep
my
your stick
signature
on the
drum
ice.
That's a beauty, eh?
which I've been told, Pete, it pushes an SL68 really well.
Really?
Yes.
I have to make a video of that pedal.
Yeah, Pete's
That
got
has
to
to
get one of
happen.
those.
There you go, Lawrence. We have to send one to Pete.
Yeah, that's absolutely needs to happen.
Yes. Yeah, it's basically a Class A tube amp in a box. It's like a maxed out Class A amp.
Oh,
So you can go into any clean backline, and it'll sound like a like a little old 50s kind of tweed amp about to blow up.
awesome.
But the little Class A, like I'm trying to think what the Gibson one is.
The GA40s.
Yeah.
Little guy,
Exactly, like the GA series. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I wonder
Tom
why
can
those never
describe my damn pedal better than I can.
Oh, I use that pedal all the time. It's great.
I always wonder why those Gibson amps, I guess they just never had anybody that had a, if somebody one person had like a hit record where they used one of those amps,
Right.
and everybody'd be talking about Gibsons, because they're cool, those old Gibsons.
Yeah.
But it's just that just never seemed to. There's probably some cool records out there where somebody used one of those things, but you just don't hear about them like you do about,
There we go. We have a reply in the chat from LPD Pedals himself. He's like, thumbs up. All right, I'm on it.
Awesome.
So that's what happens when you got your friendly neighborhood pedal builder right there in the chat, which, in all honesty, when Lawrence is available on Sundays, he's usually in your chat as well, lurking about.
I was going to mention Joe Bonamassa actually did a demo for his new Epiphone in the place where he got the original Gibson. And actually, in the background in the video, he actually does have Gibson amp there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's probably got more than
it's funny you mentioned it, and then meanwhile, I just seen one, but yeah, I mean, they're so rare.
Yeah, occasionally you see him I'm always in Friedman's shop, and you'll see him come in for repair. I guess some of them are not that dissimilar to a deluxe, the circuit and stuff, from what I've been told. I don't know. It's just nobody ever seemed to maybe classic recorded guitar sound was this that
Right.
everybody's freaking out at that point. Gibson would have been it's not for lack of tone or something. They sound great. It's kind of like Ampegs. I mean, it's like they had some great little cool combos too, but the only folks, maybe the Stones in the 70s and stuff, used them. And then, of course, everybody used the SVT, so that became the standard. But as far as guitar amps, not as much. It's interesting. Funny how things go.
Mm-hmm.
Obscure guitar amps, garnets. How about Legend?
Speaking of Garnet, I did see Gordy Johnson had his Garnet amp and cab out on the weekend, getting ready for something.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
you see them. They're around, right?
Yeah. I have a Garnet right here behind this rack, a 312 cab. But it's mounted in a chevron shape, so it's huge. It's like you think, it's got to be a 612. No, it's just 3.
Huh. Amazing.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Did I ever tell you the story about that? Or maybe it was I mentioned on my live stream, but about that amp that was it was Neil Young's, and it was this early 70s, like 71, 72, and it had 9 speakers in it. Did I ever tell you about that?
Was it an acoustic amp?
No, it wasn't acoustic. I can't remember the name.
It was a Baldwin.
But maybe.
Oh,
because Pete,
that giant one.
Pete, right on top of that Garnet is sitting a Baldwin 212 Professional, the same model that Willie Nelson plays.
Okay, that would make a lot of sense because it seems like Willie Nelson, Neil Young, similar to these.
Yeah, my dad gigged with that in the 80s, well, in the 70s, into the 80s before it started going through Transformers. And I've always wanted to get it serviced, but that's literally, 212 Professional is the exact same model that Willie Nelson's used for decades.
Does it have big push buttons on it?
Yep. It's
Yeah, okay. That's what this thing was, and this thing had like a 15, and then like 8s, and like all these speakers, and he's crazy. And the best part is, so it's like this tall, right? And it must weigh like 145 pounds, right? Yeah. And there's a handle on the top. I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna just take my amp and go to the gig. Oh. It's like why the handle on the top?
Yeah,
it's like you need a dolly to.
You should have built a dolly into the cabinet on the back, with wheels.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Hey, there's Aaron from Elvis Band. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, hey, Aaron.
And we are keeping an eye on the chat here to some extent, folks. Although we are just nerding out.
Scott Brockway said Legend was Guitar Center's in-house brand. Is that true? I didn't know that.
Quite possible.
Remember Legend? They had like a solid state front end, I think, and tube power amp, or maybe the other way around. I think it was that. I think that's right. It was a hybrid thing.
Sort of like Music Man amps. Didn't they do the solid state preamp and a powered, powered power amp section?
That's right.
Shouldn't it be the other way around for reliability? And they're like, yeah, that's why a lot of people don't play Music Man amps.
Yeah. Hey, but let's give credit to Too Loud McLeod, of course. Yeah. Right?
True.
Well, Clapton played those HD 130s and HD 65s when they first came out.
That's true.
Played them on tour
for a bit, right?
Yeah. Some folks I wonder if he was fulfilling a contract. Who knows? But still.
Yeah.
My buddy had an HD 130. Didn't sound. I mean, he played it super just with a master up, so he was playing jazz. So he was playing it super clean.
Decent amps, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get drive out of it, but for a clean platform or for clean amp, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brian did.
Yeah. Well,
McLeod.
yeah. That's a whole different thing. Yeah.
The crazy thing about those sounds, because I still don't understand it, and I wish I could, but on the record, I always heard that he cranked it, mic'd it, and then played it through a PA and mic'd that, and that's the sound on the records. So what? It's like a big Martin PA in a room, and he'd crank the amp, mic it, play it through the PA like it was at a show, and then he'd mic the PA, and that's what you hear. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, what? But that's as Legend has it.
Is he trying to get extra depth by actually recording what, you know what I mean? Like, wow,
right? I don't know.
Because you're going to introduce so much noise by doing it that way.
Yeah, and kind of ambience, maybe.
Hey, if it works, right?
I just would love to see that setup and how he did it, but he got a great guitar sound.
You know what's crazy though? Like some of those, like when you went to Sunset Sound and sat in that control room and you played, even with, I had it on my cell phone, even on bad speakers, and I was, who was it? Who's the guy, the engineer? Now I'm having a brain fart, but Garbage. He did.
Butch Vig.
Butch Vig was saying, if you have a really clean, really good mix, it doesn't matter how small or how bad the speakers are. So I'm watching the video of you doing that on my phone, and I'm like, even on the phone, that sounds good. So I put it up on my studio monitors. It's like, whoa, like just that raw sound with that reverb.
Yeah, I know. I go, okay, I'm playing and it sounds really good. We got the cab mic'd in the other room. It's like, okay, that's cool.
Like that was giving me the feels just listening to the sound of that. Like,
well, then I said, like, mix in the reverb, like chamber reverb. So the engineer pulled it up on the board, and I was like, it's like, there it is. It's just like it's instant Van Halen. Like it's like
live in that room. Like,
that's just the way the room sounds. You could well, I guess you can EQ it or do different things, but that's the way the chamber sounds.
I wonder if anyone with deep pockets has ever come. Like, can I come in with the digital thing, map this room, and copy it somewhere else?
Well, there's a plugin now.
Oh, the plugin, they map the whole.
It's $99. It's $149 normal, but they set it on sale when I bought it. I think $99 I bought it for, and it's the Sunset Sound IK Multimedia.
So you can store your DAW and.
Yeah, and it's pretty great. It's pretty awesome. You gotta try it. It's totally worth the money. Like it's.
Because I have, I do like I split it in an H9. Now I have one that's like a Sunset preset that a bunch of people in the H9 forums worked on, but I got to check that out because
it's really great. I use it all the time actually, because it not only did they do the chambers, but they did the room sounds from studio.
Oh, nice.
So if you want just like a nice room ambience for drums or for it's great on guitars. I use it all the time in demo videos actually, where I just want a little bit of widening on the core guitar sounds, but not obvious, just a little bit to kind of make it not so dry. I'll use the room, not the chamber, Studio 2, and it sounds great. But the chamber it's awesome in the plugin, but when you hear it at Sunset Sound in Studio 1 and they pull it up on the board, you're just like, oh God.
The look on your face said it all. Like the look on your face just said everything.
Yeah, it's deadly.
Like the hair was going up on the back of my neck. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
we'll see Sean Pierce Johnson. He's got to head out. I'll see you next Sunday, buddy. He's going to be my guest this coming Sunday. Nice.
While we're on the amp kick, Charles S. did ask Pete, do you have any experience with Victory amp heads?
So I've done their little pedals, which are almost halfway to a head. They're preamps. Well, they're not little. They're like the Kraken or whatever. I always say it wrong. How do you say that? Kraken.
I say Kraken, I think.
Kraken.
Just remember Seattle Kraken, Seattle's hockey team.
There you go. Yeah, but those were cool. So that was Cornford Amps fellow that started Victory. And I've heard a couple of the Cornfords from back in the day, which were great. And beyond that, only those pedals are the only ones that I've played through, which are cool too. And that was my favorite, the Rubio one. It was really good. But I also hear that the Richie Kotzen head is really good. It's very simple, 5 knobs, simple, straight up. And I have heard that it's quite good. So the owner, I remember having a fun time having some beverages with one night at a pub in Studio City, and Guthrie Govan. We went, and Guthrie was sauced, and I was fairly sauced too. and it was the owner of Victory, and we had fun. But it's funny. It's a weird small world, like the music business, because Guthrie was a really big fan of the singer Summer Rose that I used to be in a band with 20 years ago. And she would do sometimes bar gigs and stuff. She just kind of sounds like Janis Joplin or something. She's got this great big gravelly voice, and she's hilarious, like just kind of a party of a girl, and so she was doing a duo gig, that acoustic guy and acoustic and her singing at this pub, and we said, let's meet up. Summer's singing, so it was Guthrie and the nice fellow from Victory, and we had too many pints, and it was fun. Yeah.
Got Shane here with the super chat, or the Pete Thorn top chat.
In the top chat.
Did the modeler meet your expectations for the VH gig?
I happen to have it sitting right here.
Nice.
I'm about to do something with
nice.
it. Man, it was really good. It was really impressive. And, I had 3 412s, so that helps. But 3 412s and the Matrix power amp and that. And I got to say, I'm an amp guy, and I'll always be an amp guy. And, if you use the real amp, because I can do that too, like take the real amp, load it down, and then run it into the quad cortex and hear what that sounds like. And then just simply activate the block in the quad cortex with the capture in it and hear what that sounds like. And in a direct AB, the amp is a little cooler. Like it's got a little more dynamic, a little more low end, a little more, like the feel is really cool, but it's really, really good. So I got to say, I'm very, very impressed with the QC, the Neural, and what they've done. It sounded great. It worked great. You hear in the videos. It's like, well, that's pretty much right there, I think.
There's Floopy Dude. He was the one that was at the show. He says the tone was incredible.
Yeah. I was really like, well, this is working. I didn't know for sure, because I had 3 112s here. They're still sitting there. And it was like, okay, this is cool. Let's hope when I get it to then it just rocked through the 3 cabinets. And it was like, this is all, I didn't change a thing. I think I turned up the gain a little bit. One thing I noticed with the captures in the quad cortex, if anybody gets one, when this is kind of publicized, when you make a capture, it seems like they come out a little lower gain than the actual amp, just a little bit. But you can turn up the gain on this as you can on a Kemper or whatever, and kind of compensate. And so I did that, and I brought it up from 5 would be median, and I had it at 7.2. So I added some in the preset, but that just felt great, sounded great, doesn't feel fake, it was cool. And I got to say, it really had some other issues with some other gear, but nothing major. All got sorted out. But the quad cortex was.
And it's probably been a minute since you've played with 3 412s on stage.
Yeah, 10 years at least. 10 years. Yeah, because I got away from doing the wet, dry, wet thing and using so much. It was like, this is getting ridiculous. You know, it was like too much stuff. I'll tell you what, that type of rig to me is great for Van Halen, or, you know, like Steve Stevens runs a rig like that, the wet, dry, wet. It's terrific. But what if you're in a band with another guitar player and a keyboard player or something? What do you do with a guy that's stereo, wet, dry, and like, you know, you're better off with almost a.
I will show up with a Telly and a Tweed amp of some kind, and will be so shrill it'll cut right through the middle of your tone, Pete.
Well, that would be and you're absolutely right. I learned that
right?
I learned that playing with Don Henley. The other guitar player, Stuart, was amazing. He plays in the Eagles. He's an unbelievable guitar player. He uses a PV Classic 50 and, and a few Boss pedals, maybe a Menatone Red Snapper. I seem to remember him using Boss compressor. Very modest rig. Great sound. You know, it's just in his hands too, because he's amazing. But he's a couple overdrives, a couple, you know, maybe a delay, compressor. That's it, into that PV Classic 50 on the clean channel, and he had a sound that was like right down the middle. You're absolutely right. And I've got all this stuff, and I was finding at one point I was getting lost in the mix. So I've completely changed my, you know, last time I played with Don, I actually used a PT15 and one 212, and, you know, and that mono sound works really well for a sound man in a big band to place in a mix properly. So it depends on the band that you're in. You know, it depends on the group that you're in. But for Van Halen, boy, 3 412s.
Yep.
That's cool.
Nothing better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got Nerd Halen back in the chat. Hey, Caleb.
Oh, yeah. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Another question that was asked is, do you have any other possible fellow Canadians that you'd like to interview in the future on your show?
Oh, man. Alex Lifeson would be number one.
Ooh.
If I could get in touch with Alex. I tried a little while ago and I didn't get a response. I went the usual route through, like, I was like, okay, what's the management company and stuff? And I sent a kind of a, you know, cold call or whatever sort of email, but I didn't get anything back. But he seems like a guitar nerd that would like to talk guitar, and a very nice guy I met him once years ago. I met him at a Sloan concert.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. There's no more Canadian than running into Alex Lifeson at a Sloan concert.
Yeah.
On Hollywood Boulevard. Like at a club on Hollywood Boulevard. It was so weird. It was a weird venue. I remember that. And then Alex is there. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Somebody introduced me to him, and he was very nice. You know, but,
and Alex being the kind of prog rock, kind of virtuoso type guitar player, and he's at a Sloan concert.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
But I love that about
Canada
and about somebody said I lost my accent. I was like, I love that about, I just realized I did that because I'm hanging with you guys. It comes back real quick.
Well, in all fairness, Tom is outside of Philadelphia, but he is an honorary Canuck because he's so nice.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I'd love to talk to Alex. That would be amazing. But all kinds of folks. I mean, like, you know, who else would be?
I know a bunch of people would want you to get Ian Thornley.
Oh, I'd love to have Ian. And I'm friends with Ian, so that would be, you know, one of these days if he'd like to do it, that would be stellar. You know, I'm spacing on the fellow's name from Honeymoon Suite.
Oh, Derek Ian.
Yes.
You totally need to get him. He's a gear nerd. He's a huge Eddie fan as well.
I'd love to speak with him, you know, if you guys know anybody that, you know.
I've been following a lot of his stuff. I reached out to him to come on this channel. He didn't respond to me. He looked at the message, but he didn't respond.
They sent me a message. It was the Honeymoon Suite IG account. They sent a message on something that I posted and said, this is badass or something. That I was like, Honeymoon Suite. I was like, I love you guys. You know? Now they follow me and I follow them and stuff. So there's that connection. I don't know if it's him or if it's
Gary's had that signature Godan in the mix for a couple of years now. I think it's out now, but it's basically a replica of his Kramer tread guitar.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Super cool.
He's a terrific guitar player. You know, who's the fellow from?
You know who I want to see?
Who?
Philip Faith.
Oh, Philip. I know Philip. I mean, I'd love to talk to Philip. Yeah, you're right. That'd be another.
I met Philip once, and you know we talked about meditation and yoga for like 15 minutes, and then he was like, he said, "Do you want an autograph or something? I gotta get going." I said, "No, I didn't want anything from you. I just wanted to talk." And he goes, "You know what? That was really nice. Give me a hug, brother." And he gave me a big hug. He's all sweaty. He goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry." Because like you don't think he's like not a big. I'm only 5'8", and he was maybe a little taller, but thinner than me, like not a big guy. Yep. And he's soaked in sweat after the game. He goes, "Give me a hug, brother." He goes, "Oh man, I didn't mean to get you soaking wet." And I'm like, "Dude, it's totally fine." He goes, "All right, man, have a great night." Like they were driving to the next gig like 6 hours up to New York. Like he was playing on a borrowed amp, and the rectifier tube was having a problem, and it was a couple pedals, and he was dancing on them all night. And I said, "How do you do all that footwork?" He said, "I don't think about it." He said, "I don't think they're colors. I don't think about it." I'm
spur
like,
of the moment, like it's going.
It was the most amazing show I've ever seen. It was like 2.5 hours long, but it felt like it was 12 minutes because I'm like, it just felt like I got assaulted with like music, and the whole front row, we were covered in sweat.
He rehearses. He rehearses very close to here, and you can hear him from here.
I just, oh my gosh!
Through the wall and the door closed.
I didn't fully get it like till I saw him live, and then I just was blown away.
Yeah, he's a monster, and he's a sweet guy. He, I took over sort of for him with Melissa Etheridge, and I always have mad respect because I had to learn some things that he'd done in the studio, and he's a great guitar player. I mean, he's one of the only people that has that. If there's, nobody could play like Stevie Ray Vaughan, but he's got that fire. That in the same way Eddie had that fire. He's got that fire, that thing and it's hard to do that, but he does it in his own way, and he's got his own voice. He's just a wonderful guitar player that plays. His intention is so pure, and there's a lot of physical spirit in his playing that is so cool.
You said this a couple weeks ago on your show. You said this about Eddie, and I think Philip says the same thing. When he picks up a guitar, he means it every time he's playing. He doesn't pick it up and just kind of noodle softly or do fingerings. No, when he picks it up, he's playing every note like it's going through a 100-watt full stack. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's right. His vibrato and he's like, okay, I'm not gonna if I'm gonna sing.
Like if you watch Philip Sasel do the Instagram videos where he's unplugged, and it's so effing loud because he's slamming on, and he's sitting outside like drinking tea, and he's like banging on that Strat,
Yeah, he's kind of on 10 all the time. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and Phil X is kind of like that too. He's and I'd love to have Phil on my show actually because we have fun. We've done things together.
I love Phil.
And he's a YouTube guy, or he used to be a YouTube.
Yeah.
He's like a YouTube guy that made good in many ways.
Well, he was much like me when he was doing YouTube. That was years after many sessions and touring gigs. And
but we would, we the public, we don't know.
Right.
Some of us in Canada, we knew.
I used to see Phil. I remember seeing Phil play with his band Powder at the Whiskey 20-something years ago, and he had a band where his hair was out to here, and and the drummer would wear light bulbs, like he had the suit covered in lights. And it was with I believe it was with his significant other, with his wife at the time, and she was a singer, and she kind of like did a sort of Dale Bozio sort of trip almost with her like image stuff. And then Phil, they were great. They had great songs. So I remember him from way, way, way back then. And we've both been in LA for like forever, and he's obviously made really good, and he's a great guy. I love Phil. Actually, the bass player, of course, Dan Spree, is the bass player that plays in the Drills, the bass player that we just did the Van Halen tribute gig, and Dan is another, talk about a great Canadian, a great guy.
Yeah, that was great yesterday.
We had him on.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
Wasn't that fun? Like, we'd literally only known each other for 4 or 5 days, but it's like we're old pals, You got the vibe. It's like he's so cool, that dude.
But there's a couple of Canucks out in California that are playing in Florida. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Man was so tight.
You guys all find each other.
Yeah.
You all find each other.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, eventually all the Canadians kind of find one another and stuff.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Amanda says that I'm chill and Phil is amped.
I remember running into I can say that's true because the first time I met Pete was at the Friedman booth, and it was chill because it was the end of day one, and we just kind of met and we took a photo and talked for a few minutes. And the same as when I met Phil, he literally got off the escalator outside the Fender area on that third floor at NAMM, with an entourage and craziness, because I think he was on his way to go play in the Gibson room. And I'm like, and I just walked up, being who I am. I'm like, hey, Phil, Ben, fellow Canuck with Guitars. And he saw the shirt with my logo, same as you had done. He's like, with the toques on the headstocks of the guitars. He's like, that's awesome. You got a show. I got to come on. I'm like, awesome. We do a selfie, boom, and then he's gone just like that. And I'm like, how do I get in touch?
Right.
You know, I was like, well, that happened.
Well, luckily he's pretty, like, in the world these days, you know, it's like Instagram and everything. It's like you can hit up people, and everybody's more accessible than.
Yeah.
I was talking about that the other day, how like used to be when we were growing up, like you go see a show and I mean, well, old guys reminiscing or whatever, but like when the lights would go down in 1983 at a show or whatever, and then the crowd get ready for you'd see the band come walking on stage. Oh my God, they're actually here. They're like superheroes, and they're in your town. You know, you'd only seen them in like Hit Parade or Circus Magazine or Kerrang, and the lights come on and it's the guy. There he is. He's the guy. And then when they're looking at me, I think they're looking right at me. That whole feeling when you're a kid, you know, it's like you're face to face with Superman or something. And now it's like everybody's like more accessible and all that, which is kind of cool in some way. But I do miss the anonymity and that was pretty cool.
That reminds me of the night I opened for Anvil, and our drummer was 18 at the time, and he had just checked out Anvil. Of course, Rob Reiner, the drummer, is a monster drummer. He's like, oh, these guys are great. And so he's like, hey, you're friends with them on Facebook, right? I said, yeah, I am. He's like, do you think we can meet them before we play tonight? I was like, I'm pretty sure, because they're sitting at the table right next to us. We're all there for load-in at the same time, you know. And we were playing in Kingston, Ontario, and they were the headliner, and we were the direct support. And it's like, sure. I'm like, can we wait till Lips wakes up? Because it looks like he's the one that drove down from Toronto, because it's about a 2-hour drive. And once he woke up, I'm like, let's go over and meet him. He's like, okay. Great
nice
guy.
guys.
Zero ego, of course.
Yeah, we did a show with them when I was playing with Chris Cornell in England at Donington. And
wow, cool.
Yeah, and I met them there backstage. So we got this great picture with them, Lips and everybody. It's like, yeah, it's so cool. Yep. It was fun. They were cool too. They had like two
twins.
What's that?
He plays through 2 twins.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That's his rig?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
With and of course, he's taken off the cloth, because they're painted with like undercoating for a truck bed and like just metal mesh like off a Mesa Boogie, just screwed on, because being Canadian with Robinson head screws.
Does he use some kind of drive or something?
SD1, I think.
An SD1,
yeah.
That
not very elaborate.
It was a basic rig, and just loud as fuck. Just still loud as fuck.
It's like a J Mascis rig.
Yeah.
He had 3 full stacks when I saw him. He had he had the Pete Townsend, the old high watt full stack, like an original vintage one. And then he had one of those Marshall, the 200 watt, like the pig amps, full stack. And then he had a super bass full stack, and all 3 of them were running at once. The bass player had an SVT with an 810, and then I forget if it was another SVT or a different head, but that one had a 415. And then they had 2 drummers on stage, and it was a small club, maybe like 300-400 people, and they measured it like over 120 decibels. I had earplugs on and then like earmuffs over my ears.
Oh, no doubt.
But it was an amazing show. You could feel it in your chest,
Somebody's asking about Bob Rock at the chat. It's like it reminding me that I have actually met Bob Rock and doing one of these shows. We did a Tone Talk together, and he's a great guy. But I remember seeing Bob Rock at a club in Vancouver when he was doing Rockhead. And it was very similar, where he had like at least a couple full stacks of Marshalls going. And that show, I actually couldn't stay in the club. I went to the parking lot, and in the parking lot, it felt like the normal volume of a club. That's how loud. I was like, it's friggin' loud out here. Like yelling at my, it's so loud out here. Like, I can barely hear you talk. We're standing outside the club.
When they would stop between songs, all you could hear, because this club's right in the city. It's a small club called the Chameleon in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But it's in a small city, but it's in the city. All you would hear is car alarms when they would stop between songs. And then all of a sudden it gets quiet, and he's a real quiet talker, and he's like, And then the next song we're gonna do is whoa, like super loud, like
oh my god,
the sound goes like this. You know?
Have you seen do you watch Flight of the Conchords? This was Portlandia. The Portlandia. Yes. Did you see isn't he in the Battle of the Quiet Bands, Portlandia? Yeah. If you guys haven't seen, want to see something funny, just look for Google or whatever, Battle of the Quiet Bands, Portlandia, and watch that episode. It's so funny.
My sister was mentioning, have you ever got to meet Keith Scott?
No, but I hear that he's a gear geek, and that he actually, I know the bass player for Bryan Adams, Saul, because I did a tour with him. And he said, Keith's a major, he geeks out on your videos. So I'm like, get out of here. And I was like, yeah, he wants to meet you one of these days. So that would be another guy. I would love to talk to him.
Because he was playing a Strat into a high watt and made it sound good. I don't know how you can do that.
He's just a hands guy. I think of him as the Canadian Mike Campbell. He just has the ear for and the intuition for the right parts. And he plays, I think, on tour for many years, just JCM 900s. Just he just whatever, good sound. Here's my tone, and then it's in his hands. But of course, rumor has it that he also used the train wreck from some of the, was it Run to You or I can't remember the song, but supposedly one of the tones. I think maybe It's Only Love. Some of the sounds on there might be the train wreck. I can't remember, but yeah, that's an interesting, because those amps are otherworldly. But I think it's more like a tone is in the hands kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely. Now there's Canadian high watts too. We talked with Bob Rock about that, with the Weird Mod and Paul Dean using that, and kind of interesting.
Yeah, because there is that history of like Paul Dean and Keith Scott playing high watts, Canadian acts, but they're Canadian high watts because they would have bought them in Edmonton or Vancouver.
And they had that different circuit, that was put in by the Canadian distributor. Tacked in there, I think, or something. So that's kind of interesting.
Hey,
I guess Friedman tried it because he was intrigued after the Bob Rock episode on Tone Talk. So he tried it and he was like, didn't really like it. He didn't think it was a big, great, say anything to write home about, but just whatever the additional, I don't know, the gain stage or something.
I had a Canadian, marked Canadian, Canadian export, whatever. 2203 Marshall had JCM 800 high school, but it was the 6550s. I love that head. It was a 50 watt, 2 KTA8s or 6550s, and it's something about it's kind of in between the super lead and the high watt because it's a cleaner, tube. So it was a lot cleaner, but it still had that Marshall sound. I guess maybe because the transformers were the same, I love that amp, and then it was one of those things that had to pay the rent 1 month and had to sell it.
Did it only have the 4 and 8 ohm tap too on the transformer?
Yeah,
they don't have a 16 ohm. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? I wonder.
Yeah.
But, do you think they're afraid maybe people are gonna mismatch it too far, one direction, and blow it up?
I'd love to know.
The only mismatch. The guy that I take, if it's over, I do some of my own amp work, but if it's over my head, I have a guy I take it to, and he said if it's one mismatch, and I think Dave Friedman said this, if it's one mismatch, especially with old amps like old Fenders, usually you're fine, but don't go 2 mismatches either direction. So maybe that's why, because those tubes are so much more power. Maybe they were afraid you're going to blow it up because the transformers were the same size as when you had EL34s in it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it. Sometimes I wonder if it was just all the cabinets they spec'd at.
Yeah.
At 8 ohms or something for Canada, and they're like, so we just want.
It's really weird. I have a 71, metal panel, and some 71s have the weird 4 input when they came. For some reason they came from the factory that way with 4 inputs.
Oh, side by side.
4 speaker outputs, not inputs on the back.
Yeah. Commonly, yeah.
But then mine only has the 2, but then different things. I used to have a 12,000 series 6800 watt Plexi, and unfortunately, again ran into money problems and sold it.
I'm going to hit this up since Lawrence put down the soldering iron. He says don't go 16 tap into 4 ohm equals bad. Other direction is fine.
But it had some weird little things too, and I took it to a guy who knows a lot about that kind of stuff, you know, in Philly, and he was like, they were doing all kinds of weird stuff, man. Like they would change stuff like mid-year. They would mine was a late '68 / early '69, but most of the parts transformers were all '68. But then some of the stuff they had used a technique that was usually not seen till March of '69, but stuff was dated January '69. So he goes, they could have done all this stuff in January, sat it on the shelf for 2 months, and then go, oh yeah, let's finish that one, and went out the door in March or April. So he's like, you know, you can only ballpark by 6 months or so, you know.
Yeah.
But I find it so interesting because they all sound different to me. You know, you can tweak them, but when you get one, you're like, wow, this one's really different, or this one's really clean, or like this. You know.
Yeah, Dave had an amp come in a little while ago. That was a really interesting, maybe late '67, early '68, 50 watt, and it was basically JTM 45, but with solid state rectifier. So real kind of transitional. Now it sounded great.
Was it like a Black Flag?
Yeah, it wasn't Black Flag actually, but it was it must have been that era, you know, and it sounded really good, but it sounded great for Black Crows to AC/DC to kind of stuff like that.
Sure.
Well, this guy was going to buy it, and because it was being it was in for, you know, just going over tweaking / repair, and the guy that was buying, and it was very expensive because it's a Primo, it was in really great shape, original, everything, you know, and so Dave was like, I think I'm going to try doing lead spec on this and just see what it does to the amp, and so he did it, and you know, it's not a lot of parts changes to bring it to lead spec from that, just whatever the EQ and the whatever, you know, and so he changed it, and my God, did it ever sound like it was probably the best 50 watt I've ever heard after that. I was like, oh, and I had it, you know, I've got my 72 there, which put on a tweak to stuff, and it sounds really great, but this amp just, it was like, shit, you know, because it's like maybe, you know, it's 5%, but it's that 5% where it's just like, this one sounds awesome, but that amp just, man, it sounded good with that.
I know exactly what you mean. Like my 71 sounds great, but my 68 like did something to me when I played it. Like it was like, oh man, oh, it's so painful.
I knew Tom was going to nerd out on amps tonight. I just knew it.
I'm an amp guy. I've always been an amp guy, but So.
And a proud Sir guitar owner as well.
Oh, I'll show you that real quick. Let me show you this real quick. Actually, I can show you on the air because there's two parts of this that are. Now this is going to look funny for a second because I got to take my green screen off. They're influenced by yourself, but so this was a Sir, just a classic antique, but it came, you know, SSH, but I stripped the finish down to bare wood and refinished it myself. It's like a sparkle, almost like an ocean sparkle.
Okay, cool.
And then that's a Thornbuckers, you know, pair set.
Well, great.
And then I threw this bridge on.
Yep. And how's the bridge working out for you?
Oh, dude, it stays in tune.
Yeah.
It stays in tune like a Floyd.
Yeah.
You know, and then I, you know, just the locking tuners they put on it.
Well, that's really fun. That's
I just did the matching headstock.
Yeah. That's cool. You should write Sir on the headstock with a magic marker.
There we go. But, I mean, I want to get like another Sir, and this is the mock-up I did. I just did this with a spare body I had. It's like a sparkle pink. It doesn't come through on the camera really, but I wanted to. I was going to do an EVH on it.
Yeah.
Another one, but then I got bored, and I wanted to do spec up a Sir like that, but I see. I don't know if they would do it. Do you know if they would do something and just do like clear coat it and leave it, or will they only? I mean, like if I'm going to order direct and pay full custom shop price, can I get it with? You know what I'm saying? Like I just want it clear coated because I'm going to repaint it myself anyway. But
that's
it's
an
the
interesting.
It's the best playing guitar bar none I've ever had. Like that's my number one. I play that guitar all the time.
So you would want to paint it yourself, but you would want basically the guitar finished otherwise.
Yeah. You know.
I have no idea. I mean, that's an interesting custom order idea. I don't know why they do have a thing about things leaving the factory. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I wonder. Like, go ahead.
They're not finished or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, they want it to be up to their spec, and so that it's not like a, you know. But I don't know. I mean, you could probably get one of the matte finishes Like,
right, like they do on the ones they do on the moderns, where it's just literally like a matte finish, and it's almost like an oil or like a
I bet.
like
I don't know if
you kind of finish.
It's a question for them whether or not you could paint on that easily, but I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, like where it's like done like that, and then you can paint whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I always wondered who was it? Was it? I think it was Al Estrada that had. It looks like a bumblebee, but it's a Sir. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, they did. They did one.
Yet.
I think it's kind of I don't know about because I know.
Or was that like a special artist thing? Because you know.
Yeah.
Playing that massive gig, and doing the well, it's got a member of Van Halen in it, so it's a Van Halen show.
He's had it for a long time. I know that particular guitar, and I'm not sure. He's definitely not playing with Dave.
And I'm not looking to stripe anything or do anything like that. I just want to, for myself, I want to do a sparkle finish.
Yeah.
But I want to experiment with something ahead of time and do something that, like, to explain it to a custom paint shop would be easier for me to get it plain and do it myself. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question for a dealer, that if there's a good like Cosmo or you're not you're not in Canada. It's a question for who's it? Well, you're in you could ask what's the store?
The one in Pittsburgh you were at is my closest, I think.
Which is a great shop. What's that shop again?
Yeah. Was it End Stuff Music?
End Stuff.
Yeah.
They'd be able to tell you that.
Yeah. So I'm like 3 or 4 hours from there now, but I used to be 20 minutes from it. I would go in all the time.
Yeah.
It's like all the Sir, like all the models all over the wall.
I like those people a lot. They got that club.
And they let you play them all. Like I was a college student, I had no money.
They let me play all they're nice. Well, it's a family owned. It's an old school music store. It's a great store outside of what's given In Stuff Music. And I met Reb Beach there. I mean, he came in to buy a pedal or something. He was just.
I went to school with Reb Beach's nephew.
Yeah. It's a nice, and they've built this great new club venue where they do clinics and concerts and things next door. It's a really nice music store. Yeah.
Well, the guy that's the main owner, he's a a good player. He's really into it. I mean, he's a player. He's not just a business guy,
Yeah. So. They've been doing it for ages. Yeah. What's funny? Tell us.
Terry, just fun. I tend to be verbose and
he's like, wow. He's like, did you slip Tom something tonight? And I'm like, no, Tom's just fanboying a little. It's all good.
Sorry. I'm just a big fan, Pete, so I'm going to ask you questions.
He's a little overwhelmed. He's with a lot of Canucks tonight, and there's a lot of Canadian talk tonight, and he's thinking about buying a cottage, somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
Got it. Lake country.
I think my love of Canada started, though. I used to go to Ottawa, go fishing every summer.
Which is 2 hours northeast of me, and that's literally you drive 10 minutes north of here and it's just lake every minute and a half, lake for the next 24 hours driving north.
Oh my gosh.
Until you hit
6 hours east of me.
Yep. I saw a guy bringing a 79-inch Northern Pike, fought it for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Oh.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But yes. Hopefully you'll be getting back to Canada at some point, Pete, to do some playing or some clinics or something. Maybe come back to Cosmo Music.
Yeah, I would love to get up again. It's been a minute, and I've been to Eastern Canada a few times in the last over the years, but man, I haven't made it to Vancouver since 2012.
Wow,
which is nuts because I love that town and I got friends up there, so I really want to get there too.
We all have friends. I think if anyone's involved in music in Canada has friends in Vancouver.
Yeah, well, I always say it's the place where you get kind of the best climate in Canada, I guess, and it's a real vibrant. I love Vancouver because it's so vibrant. Like with people, it's expensive to live. There's like California.
See, Dave. And for those who don't know, I'm on with Nez Says every Thursday night at 8 p.m. on the Nez Says channel. Myself, Dave Nesdahl, and Ty Price.
Night, Dave.
Last week we had Len, who worked at Alex's Music in the 70s on 48th Street in New York. Man, did he have some stories, Pete?
AKA 48th Street Guitars, AKA ESP.
Right.
It was insane.
Telling cool stories.
Yeah.
Good time.
He would be like, oh yeah, so Eric was playing at the Garden that night, and Eric wanted me to bring some guitars, and he's like, Eric Clapton? Yeah. Eric wanted me to, he's like, oh yeah.
That's like Sir's stories from 48th Street. Sir's got the stories that are like, he's got one about Mike Stern, where one time he came to pick up a guitar and his shop was upstairs at Rudy's. And so he went all the way up the stairs. It was a brand new, he commissioned some guitar with special neck and everything. It was brand new. He just finished it. And he went to go down the stairs, and John's back. He said, "Okay, see you later, man." He's like, "Great, take the guitar. He's going to go." He's been building it for months. He goes back to work or whatever, and he hears this crash, like, terrible noise. And Mike's like, he's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" He turns around, and Mike's like, "John." And he's falling down the stairs, and like the headstock's broken off the guitar. He's literally just picked it up. That's just Mike Stern, but he fixed it and whatever. But anyway.
Oh man,
crazy.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Ola's video this morning or today with the dog knocking over his acoustic.
Oh, did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that dog. That dog is so funny, and when he talks to it and stuff, it's great. I love Ola. Ola's great. That he's golden.
He is cool.
Yeah.
He's very cool.
Yeah.
Usually run into him at every NAMM show, although he's not a spot because he is a head above everybody else.
Frosty, there may not be any 79-inch pikes now, but in 1988, when I was there were 79.
Well, there probably still is. There's 1,000 lakes up there. So
we were on a privately owned fishing place, but every place around it was all native tribal land, so no one else could get in there, and it was not overfished.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Nice.
79-inch pike. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're Canucks with Canoes. Thanks for joining in. Please like and subscribe.
It's awesome.
We know a lot about canoes, eh?
Yeah.
So have you guys checked out I've talked about it on my show, but have you checked out Jordan's album from Blink of the Star? The new Blink of the Star album, the Juvenile Universe album?
Have I? No, I have not.
Okay, check it out. Juvenile Universe. It's a little ode to Universal Juveniles.
Yeah.
And it's such a great record that has a real 70s, 80s vibe. I think you'll really appreciate it if you like Kim Mitchell, and just the sound of it, the production it'll take you back. I don't know. It's a really great record.
Zach asks, because Zach being from hometown Oshawa, Ontario, does Pete know Darren Smith or Darren James Smith?
Okay, who's Darren Smith? Why do I know that?
He played drums with Harum Scarum.
Oh, okay.
And he sang or still sings for Jakey Lee's band, Red Dragon Cartel.
Okay. No, I don't know him, but the guitar player from Harum Scarum, remind me of his name real quick.
Oh, it's on the tip of my brain.
Great player.
Yes.
And Mike from Our Lady Peace, we got together and had a beverage in Toronto, maybe the last time I was there. And the guy was really cool. That's the only time I ever met him. I feel bad. I can't remember his name right now. But anyway.
Last something?
Pete.
Yeah, Pete.
L'Esperance.
Yeah, that's him. So Mike from, original guitar player in OLP, and he brought Pete, and we met at a bar in downtown Toronto and close to the Eaton Center there, and we had a beverage and talk guitar. It's just like we are right now.
Nice.
But yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was cool. So he's the only one I've met from Harum Scarum. But I didn't realize that guy within Darren from Jake's band. That's interesting.
Yep. I ran into Darren. I think I told the story actually probably a month or so ago. I was at a show for the band Automan.ca, which was fronted by Daryl Miller, drummer from the Killer Dwarfs. Similar aspect, drummers that became frontmen, interestingly enough. He was playing a club in Oshawa, so I went up, and they're getting ready to perform, and they do a couple of songs. This guy's standing next to me, and it's a fairly young crowd, and Darren's our age, or probably a few years older than me, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, between songs, I look at him like, do we know each other? And he kind of smirks, and I'm like, because you do look familiar, and he kind of smirks again, and he goes, Harum Scarum. I'm like, Darren. He goes, so have we played together before? Because you do look familiar too. And I'm like, I don't think so, but and we could not figure it out. And then after the show, we went backstage to hang out with Daryl from the Dwarves, and he's like, do you know where we would know each other? He's like, no, I don't. It's like I just got off stage, but it was bugging Darren something fierce.
That's Canada. It's a pretty small world. I mean, a great big country, but
and that's the thing. It was Daryl's from Oshawa. Killer Dwarfs were also from Oshawa. So he's playing in Oshawa. Darren from there as well. Hell, he still does an open mic or an acoustic set every Wednesday at like the Kelsey's. It used to be Kelsey's. Now I think he moved it to the Atria, which is a club. That's their club for the town. You know, it holds 200, 250. I remember I played there one night. I looked up in the marquee and it was like us playing that night, and 2 weeks from then, Gilby Clark was playing there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because that's the place in Oshawa.
Yeah. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So, Ben, are you going to ask Pete the question you ask us every week? Is there something that he's...
is there a current piece of gear that you're all hot and horny over, that you're just, oh, this is nice? You know, because we always do that. You have that initial little honeymoon little thing when something new gadget comes in. Or
sure. Is
there something new that's been tickling your fancy lately?
Well, I've got a guitar here, but I can't show it to you. So that's one thing. That's a teaser. But
all right.
Besides that, I can show you this one, which is new. Twang. This one is one I've been playing in a bunch of videos recently.
Nice.
And so this was a project to try and get a real quiet guitar here for my studio that's got a lot of EMI kind of interference that comes into pickups. Sure. And so I thought I'd mess with some actives. And
Lukather vibe?
Sorry?
It's like an 80s Lukather vibe?
A little bit, with an 85 in the bridge and then 2 SAs.
Nice.
And this is actually an EMG. The guard came from EMG, and they had to kind of retrofit it to fit on the guitar, because normally maybe the screw holes or maybe the neck route would be a little different for Sirs, but they made it work, which is cool, because I'm not a tortoiseshell guy at all. Like white tortoiseshell, I don't like that look really for me, but this guard looks great on this guitar with this finish, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's because the EMGs are kind of, just bare, and that finish is kind of reserved, that the tortoiseshell just, it
pops.
It works.
Yeah, so it's
it works like an 80s studio shred machine.
Exactly. And it really is quite quiet. I still have to sit in one position this way, but I can get in a position where it's basically dead silent, which is really nice.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that in my weird room here with humbuckers, usually I have to sit here, and with single coils, I have to sit here. In my videos, you'll notice that with a humbucker, I'm generally faced this way.
It's giving away the secret.
This guitar is here for all three.
Now, everybody that's noticing that,
they're going to notice it every time.
Yeah, no, that's what I have to do. But this guitar is quite quiet. Now, the EMGs was kind of an experiment, because it was like, am I going to like the sound? And I was like, I don't even care what they sound like. They just have to sound like quality, decent guitar pickup that's quiet. Because every now and then you cut apart, like let's say you're doing Flesh for Fantasy style or something, a ton of compression that's clean, or even gainy stuff where there's breaks and holes, and then you come back in. I hate gates. So I wanted something that worked for that. And so I was like, I don't even care if it's the best sounding guitar. I just care that it's quiet for certain parts that need to be quiet that I'm tracking in this room. Well, lo and behold, I get the guitar, and everybody, active pickups, they could be sterile. I'm a passive guy, and I always said that. I always thought that about myself. But I got this guitar, and I quite like the sound of them, and I think they sound really good. And I think especially I always imagined the single coils would sound kind of neutral and maybe not super stratty. Well, lo and behold, it sounds quite stratty. Like they're like, wow, that's actually a great tone. And I get a lot of people that commenting on the sound of it, like, that guitar sounds great with those pickups, And so, okay, so I thought, well, what's with the stigma with the EMGs over the years, and why did people feel that way? And what I came up with, this is just a hypothesis, but I thought about it back in the 80s when these kind of first came out and became popular. We were using a lot of, maybe you had MXR pedals or something, and a Marshall amp or whatever, and you're plugged in with your Les Paul or your whatever, your Super Strat, and you JB in the bridge or something right into the amp, right? Or a couple pedals. Not a lot of talk of buffers going on back then. Not a lot of talk of, like pedal boards that were really tricked out. No. It was like none of that happening. And then these pickups come out. Well, they're buffered right out of the guitar. So that is a different sound. But nowadays, everybody's running a 15-foot cord into their pedal board, and then they got some fancy buffer up front. And they're buffered on the back end and stuff. And they're all basically preamp, buffered, low impedance. Most guys coming out of their boards with their boutique pedals, going into a 20-foot cable to their amp or whatever. And it's a sound that we've all gotten very used to and dialed in. Well, I got thinking about it, like, maybe that's the difference. Like we're all used to that sound now, so these just are that right out of the guitar. They're preamped and buffered and stuff, low impedance right out of the guitar. Maybe a little brighter, I guess, but it's like everybody's got these buffers on their board now, so we're not plugging right into the front of a Marshall anymore. Rarely. That's not a lot of guitar players are using a clean amp and a bunch of pedals and using pedals.
That's what I do.
Yeah, so maybe it's not that different anymore. The active pickups to the and so it just did. I thought it was going to be more uncomfortable or sound different to me than the passive, Thorne buckers and pickups that I'm used to.
Sure.
It really doesn't. It's really quite comfortable, and I really love the guitar. It's a great playing, great sounding guitar. Got my bridge on it that I love that Tom there uses as well, and so that's it. So this one's been really fun, and it's getting a lot of it's become a workhorse around here, and I'm using a lot.
I like that bridge so much. I bought 3 of them.
Yeah, once you motor it, you can't not use it.
You can't go back. And the mass of that bridge is
it's got a tone, right?
Yeah.
See, I didn't expect that. I thought maybe
I didn't either. I didn't. Oh, that's not going to make a difference. But that, even without the locking, acoustically, it's even louder.
Has a very nice tone. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, that's nice.
I'll tell you the saddles, because I did the saddles on this guitar, which has a Goto 510 plate on it.
Yep.
With the 6-screw Goto.
Okay.
And I got the saddles and put them on there.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
So this is just retrofitted the saddles on, and this sounded better with these. So it originally had the bent, vintage style saddles.
Right. Yeah, bent steel. Yep.
Yeah, and putting these on here, I'll be damned if the guitar doesn't sound better when I put these on, even over the vintage style. So there's something about these saddles, I think.
And there's something about too. I mean, I ordered them right from Trev. It was his daughter that mails everything out, on through Reverb.
Sure.
And there's something about when you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, in Sir's case, they're buying directly for their guitars, but the quality, every single one is machine, so precise. I'm used to getting stuff where it's got a little burr there, got to shave that off, or no, these are you could let an infant touch it and they would not cut themselves. It's perfectly smooth.
Yeah, Trev's a really good guy. His wife and
the quality's off the charts.
It's a nice operation they have there for sure.
My sister,
it stays in tune.
Does Pete like to mod his stuff for aesthetics or cool stuff like a fun kill switch? I should know this, but I do not.
Great question, Amanda.
Mod my guitars. I mean, that's the one mod that, like I say, I've done on that one, the saddles. As far as kill switches or stuff like that, not really. I guess my double humbucker, my guitar has the weird where you go I guess it's weird, but you go all the way up to position 5 with the switch and it's split coil. So you might think that's supposed to be the humbucker, but it's not. It's so little things like that. It's more just spec that I like. I like my necks a certain way and I like certain size frets. I like the big. Sure's a custom shop, so in most of my guitars these days are Sure's. So I'll spec it out and get exactly what I want. So then I was
gonna say, and you do have a signature guitar with signature pickups.
Yeah, so I'm not really modding things as much as I am just kind of well, this is what I'm envisioning, and then getting it, and then maybe we tweak, But that's the beauty of that place, and having it in California, because you can drive out there, and they'll do little tweaks and things for me out there. So it's really fortunate that way that it works like that, I guess.
And hello to Music Therapy Laz. Good to see Laz in here.
And he did also ask a question.
Oh, we did.
He says, Pete Thorn, I played 3 Schurz at Danville Music, North Cal, this early evening. Very nice guitars, man. They didn't have a PT model. Probably special order?
About probably half the shops I go into will have one. So it's just a matter of, they'll order one at a time, and then, if they come in, then it takes a while.
Cosmo usually keeps one in stock at least.
Yeah,
I walked in there and shot a demo on one day. I didn't ask to shoot in their store or not, but I'm like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Right. So beg for forgiveness.
I just went in. I just went into the platinum room. I waited for. There's always some kid in there noodling away. Once that kid left, and actually, Absolute Mayhem from the chat, he was with me. He just shot it on my phone, and I'm like, this is a Pete Thorn signature guitar. Here it is.
That's right. Yeah. That's yeah. And you know, it's nice when you go in the shop and you see one there. It's really cool. I'll tell you, it was like I went to do a clinic tour in Asia right before the pandemic, and it was really great to get over there and do that. And it was really everybody, you know, had the guitars in stock and stuff. And the one shop I went to in Taiwan, they'd just gotten a blue one in, and I went in there, and all the employees they'd done T-shirts, you know, how the amp has my signature on them. And they were all wearing T-shirts with they were custom T-shirts they had printed that said PT15IR on them with my signature and stuff. And I was like, these are the sweetest people in the world. Like, it was so endearing. Like, it was like, wow, I felt really like that was the nicest thing.
Was
you know?
that?
It's just like, wow, you go halfway around the world and they just, you know, they wanted to really, you know, they're really welcoming and stuff.
Doug Strong asks,
"Oh, that's cool.
I'm hoping to be going to Cosmo on Friday. It's an hour away from me, so I need to know what I'm going for." Dude, they got tons of stuff. They have
Boston.
They're possibly the largest guitar retailer in Canada for one location.
A tuner.
Yeah, a Garnet amp.
If they may have one in on trade. You never know with the used gear in there.
I know what he should go for: a tuning pitch pipe.
Yeah, get a pitch pipe.
I'm just thinking you should check out a Pete Thorn guitar while you're there.
Check out a Pete Thorn guitar or amp. Maybe they got a PT15.
I was just going to say that.
I can't remember if I've seen any
I still want to play
amps in there or not. That's the question.
Hopefully
I played,
they've got PT15.
you know,
hopefully.
I played your original PT100 and it was great. I only got to play for like about 30 or 40 minutes, but I mean, it was awesome. But I haven't been able to play a PT15 I want to play because in the videos I've seen, it sounds like you can get, you know, all the tones you need.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, you know, you can bring it with your place. You know, you can actually take it.
It's so light, like the weight of a Badger 18. Yeah, they weigh nothing. I mean, I think it's 23 pounds, 24 pounds. It's super light. And,
wow.
It's on my wish list.
Man, they sound great. I think they did such a nice job on it. It's just a really playable, giggable, like great volume. I mean, you don't need. I found I used it from the Europe or UK tour I did with Classic Rock Show for the first time, and I did like 30 dates with it, and I couldn't really you know, I was turning it up. I mean, it was on masters on 4.5. It's making pretty much full power, but at that volume, sometimes the sound guy, depending on the theater, it was all theater shows. And the sound guy would come down and say, like, hey, anyway, you can bring it down a little bit tonight. You know, it's like, yeah, no problem. It's nice to know I could get that far, though.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got more than enough power, you know, unless you're playing like metal or something or doing, you know, it's like just that amp and a cab, especially these days when everybody's on in-ears and stuff anyway, you know, it's like, it's great. So it's really, I was a little scared, you know.
Not all of us are on in-ear. Some of us, you know, we're only running the vocals through the PA still, Pete, and it's all stage volume, you know.
Well, yeah, but I'm blown away these days. I mean, everybody's got, like, I'm finding all these club bands and stuff, and they're all using
and it's almost like it's a city ordinance thing. They got to keep volume down at the club level, right?
Yeah.
So stage volume, everything's down.
Right.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Rising Havoc said he wants the Sir Ombre. I want one of those too. That looks. What did you think of that, Pete? You have one of those, right? Or did you just borrow one or play one?
The Ombre?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I tell you my experience with the Ombre. I have one here.
Oh, you do have one? Okay.
Yeah,
I know you demoed one. I didn't know if you had one, but.
Yeah, no, I have one, and I plugged into it and used it for the first time. I plugged in and I played for 45 minutes. I was just like, "This is so fun!" Like, no, just cable. You know, I had my Urine plugged into it. Really given, like, just and it's a very pure sound, just like a Comet or a Trainwreck or a, you know, an old Marshall, or, you know, like you plug in and it just starts feeding back, and beautiful connection to the guitar in your hands, and it's just that really organic. You know, if you want that early ZZ Top thing, it does it beautifully. There's not a hell of a lot of clean going on, although if you play a guitar with lower output pickups or something, you're good. But it has a wonderful mid-range rawness to it. They sound kind of like a little baby Marshall. Like there's a proto Marshall thing going on there, because the circuit with the long tail phase inverter and stuff like that, and the you know, just the design is similar to. There's a little bit of a Marshall thing going on. So Marshall before Marshall, and then of course Fender went cleaner. Yeah. You know, not too long after that, and Marshall did that thing, and and the rest is.
I was lucky. I got to play the Ombre because it was debuted at NAMM 2020, and the Ombre happened to be in the Sir booth right below your new red signature guitar at the time.
Oh, cool.
And they had one of those security little bracelet things around your signature guitar because, they can't just have any great unwashed come in and touch, the quality gear. And I remember I looked at it and I went, oh, I can't. And the guy's like, yeah, that's, it's under. I was like, that's the time I went, well, I'm Pete's moderator on his live stream. Do you think I could try this in the Ombre out just, so I get a feel for it? And so someone asked in the live chats. And John was there and he's like, yeah, let him do it. So, thanks.
That's cool.
So got to play it for about 5-10 minutes. Great amp, great guitar.
Yeah, really fun little amp. And I love my guitar. Yeah, I love my guitar. Like I say, more coming. Interesting stuff coming.
Mm-hmm. We can't talk about publicly, but I have a strong suspicion because you may have leaked something a number of months ago. And it's right there in the back of my head. And that's all.
It'll be cool. It'll be cool. Definitely.
Somebody had asked earlier, what year is your Ibanez Destroyer?
76.
76.
Yeah, I love that thing. It's a great. I have no desire. Like I've got an Explorer I'm going to sell actually, because it sounds more like a wet blanket. It's a little like MIDI. But it's all mahogany and all that, But whatever wood they used on those is sen, I guess, which is like Japanese ash.
Yes.
And it's got a sound that's just like, okay, I can see why. And the neck is wide and flat. It's kind of like those, if you've ever played like the best of the Gibson SGs, or, I don't know if it's 64 or where they had a wide, thin kind of thing going on, the fastest neck in existence.
Yep.
And this guitar has that neck really where it's just like this amazing neck. And it's funny because I got that guitar from a guy in Huntington Beach who has had it for 20 years. And he got it from the owner of TV Jones Pickups. And the TV Jones guy had it for a number of years before. And it has TV Jones humbuckers in it that sound amazing. I have no desire to change the pickups. It sounds so good. And they're like 8.3K PAFE kind of vibe. And they're perfect for that guitar. And so I contacted the TV Jones fellow on Instagram, one of those great things we can do now through the magic of the interwebs. And I wrote him an email and I said, hey, by any chance, I bought this guitar from a fellow that says it was yours before. And he goes, oh my God, you have that guitar. And he's like, if you ever sell that guitar, you have to sell that guitar to me. And I'm like, okay. All right. But he's like, is it still the greatest neck ever? And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was over the moon about, he's like, he's all like, crazy. I guess he really regretted letting it go. But he can come borrow it from me if he wants to. Maybe not. I'll never get it back. He'll disappear. It's a really special guitar. I mean, it's one of those ones that you play it in videos and people freak out. Oh, yeah, the Destroyer. I love that thing.
Well, it's weird sometimes, like you'll get like, something like that was like, if it wasn't for Eddie playing it, maybe it would have become like this oddball item that people would have forgot about, not knowing how good those were. But it's kind of like everyone thinks like, oh, I want a 59 Strat or 62 Strat. I know this guy's got a 66 Strat, but every time I go over there, I'm like, can I play your Strat? Can I play your Strat? Just something about the neck. And it's one of the Strats where they hit the bridge pickup out of the ballpark. Never have to touch the tone knob. Full up on the bridge pickup. It's not that it's not bright, but it's not brittle in any way. And the neck is perfect down low, but it's just, you can tell they're hand carved because it completely changes, but it's just flat enough up here.
Yeah.
In a 66, you don't know. Maybe someone did flatten it higher up, but
my Telly has that neck. So I have a 60. So you're saying it's a little bigger down here and then it gets flatter. Oh, dude, that's my Telly. And I don't know if that was just the way they told him to sound. There's one guy doing it, but it's kind of weird. It's like my 66. Where is it? It's oh, there it is. So yeah,
see yourself, Parrot. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
It's got a kind of a fatness down here.
Yep.
And then up here, it's thinner. Yeah. I mean, it probably goes from like 90.9 or something here to 0.85 here. Yep.
It's pretty drastic. Yeah.
Kind of weird. It's like,
whereas the standard will be like 0.9 to maybe like 0.88.
No, actually bigger. I think.
No. Go ahead.
you know what I'm saying? Like any modern Fender will start here and then get fatter, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah.
And this one's like fatter here and then gets a little thinner. And I think it's a common 60s thing.
Yes,
it's so weird, you know. But whoever was shaping the necks then, well, it's probably one dude. It's
but
probably Tony.
For some reason,
Tony
I
was working
love
on
it. I mean, it sounds great, and I didn't think I'd like the feel of it, but I played it for about 5 minutes. I'm like, wow, yeah, this is great. I was like, same thing. If you ever want to sell this, you call me first.
Yeah. Well, some of the oddball guitars, I mean, they had great, you know, I mean, like you say, if Eddie hadn't played the Ibanez, now they're quite expensive. Ace Frehley used them too, but you know, they're hard to find now. They just didn't make that many of them only for a couple of years. Probably got in trouble, the lawsuit thing and stuff. And but there's a lot of cool guitars that, like, you know, it just was like whatever, like the 59 Les Paul. It's interesting. Like before I was here today, I was at a friend's place. I got to play a few Les Pauls, vintage Les Pauls, 59 Les Paul. And you know, anytime you can play a 59 Les Paul, it's like, yeah, you mind if I pick that up for a minute? Because it's just a little cool religious experience to do so. And he had a 59 and a 60 that I played.
Wow.
The 60, kind of forgettable. Like, you know, the neck on it is like kind of similar to like a Les Paul Classic or something. And the guitar itself, I just was kind of like, okay, like I wouldn't be that, you know.
Like it could have been like a custom shop.
Still a $200,000 guitar, you know, but it's, you know, but the 59, exceptional. The 59 was like, oh yeah, and it just that perfect neck with a little bit of a V and nice shoulders.
Now I have a quick question for you. Was the 60 like a stunner, or was it like in mint condition?
No, it had a much more red finish, like some of the 60s do. A lot of red in the sunburst. And they were both pretty checked and fairly used.
Yeah, because I know some people will buy ones that they know don't sound great, but it's an investment. But you would think a player would always buy the best sounding one, right?
It might sound great. I've heard that the 59 is supposed to be just stunning plugged in.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get a chance to plug it in, but it sure did. It's like, oh yeah.
It's always weird when there's a guitar you have to fight, but you know it sounds so damn good that you'll fight it just to get that sound, you know.
This guitar's a little like that. Like it doesn't play exceptional. It's got, you know.
Have you ever had the weird thing where you get a guitar plays so easy you almost feel guilty? Like, I shouldn't be playing this faster. I shouldn't be nailing all these. This isn't me. This is too good. Like
that's almost like the Ibanez. It has that neck where it's like, wow, it's so low and fast everywhere. It's amazing.
Right.
You know. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I like that. One of the things I'm like about Sir is, you know, I'm pretty snobby or like whatever. I'm like, you know, you get into like if John ever when he does a fret job and cuts the nut, it's like, you got to be kidding me right now. It's like he cuts a nut like no one else, you know, and that's a huge part of the feel of the guitar. When the nut on so many guitars is just a little too high for me and doesn't need to be, and then it kind of affects the action all the way up to the 9th fret or so, where it just feels like, it's kind of fights you a little bit. When the nut is cut just right, it's just like butter down here, and there's still no buzzing or anything. Because the trick is if the nut gets too low, then your open strings buzz, of course.
If the nut's cut right, you don't mind playing in the key of F.
Exactly. B flat becomes an option in first position or whatever. Yeah. No, it still sucks.
The horn players will be happy if we're playing in B flat.
Wasn't that funny when Kim brought up like, because I'm like, and then you go into that big F chord on Go for Soda, and he's like, and it's in the key of F, and you know that. And I'm like, why is it in the key of F? I'm like, why didn't you do it in E? So I'm always like, it's the weirdest. Saga too, on the loose, F. Really? F? Like, why did you do it in F? It's hard to play those licks in F, you know, kind of. It's crazy, but I had to learn that. And
Doug, my cousin Doug's got to head out. Down and Back Corn Doug, the #1 cornhole podcast on YouTube. And,
I don't know what that means.
Says, tune into NAS Canucks tomorrow night. Ben has been asking a question for months. Is finally answered. Ooh, so check it out, folks. We have a dedicated following over there of 55 fans, and we love it.
But they're your fans.
Yeah, they are, exactly. And most of them are from this channel, too. It's just, you know, there's some musicians that are also race fans, so it works.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. What else we got going on?
I always found myself down those YouTube holes. I was watching this woman in Appalachia that takes river stones, cuts them on these giant, like, lathes, and makes these amazing, like, thin slices of rock where it's almost like, you know, the thickness of maybe a phone, but you can see all the different sedimentary layers of like a really old rock. And she sells this stuff like to collectors and to jewelers, but she kind of like, was able to leave her job and do this full time, by doing her YouTube channel. And now she sells all of her, products and stuff. But, when she started, she didn't know anything about, gems.
That's wild.
Down these rabbit holes.
Hey, while I got you guys here, Ben, this weekend, Sunday Live is not going to happen for me because I've got a flight on Sunday because I'm going to Wisconsin. It's a long story. It involves a vampire musical. So
that's why he hasn't been promoting it on his channel, folks.
It's going to be great if you're in Oshkosh, but otherwise. Anyway, so I was wondering Saturday. I'm going to do Saturday, I think. A show on Saturday instead.
Saturday works.
If that works. I don't know if you can do it. That's great. If you can't, that's okay too.
Around your usual time, but on Saturday?
I think so. I think that sounds good. Sounds about right to me. Maybe 11:30, on Saturday, 11:35. So I'm going to put up a post on YouTube and on Instagram. And
that'd be perfect because I'd be in between RJ and Steve.
Yeah.
There you go. Going to do a little live stream Saturday instead. So Saturday Live this week, number 192. Saturday. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that'll be fun. Change up. I like it.
I hate to cancel it altogether. I don't want to do that. So we'll do Saturday. Right. And then the following week we'll be back to same time, same place, whatever, the 24th, 31st.
Which is 11:30-ish a.m. on Sundays, Pacific time.
Well, I guess it's on a Halloween.
It's on Halloween, yeah. 31st.
Yeah, I'll have a Halloween morning. Wow, I have to dress up. What we can wear. Oh, Ben, you're not on, though. You should,
I could come on and co-host with you one time.
You want to dress up? Only if you got a good costume. You got to get an ape suit.
The kids at the school where I work said I need to dye my beard white and then get a wig since I'm bald and just be Santa for Halloween. I'm like, no,
that's cool.
All I can say is the last time I dressed up for Halloween, I dressed up as Lemmy, and I ended up keeping that burn stash for 2 years.
You could do a good Lemmy, actually. Yeah, that's true.
Well, you could always dress up as a Canadian.
Earmuffs, winter jacket, multiple Canadian, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I think you should do it. Joe Flaherty. Actually, that's perfect. Be
I love
Joe. Good. Do that, Joe Flaherty. Halloween. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Doug says Ben could be Sasquatch, just not wear a shirt. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. God.
Well, let's see if I can find a picture with me with the burn stash.
I want to see it. I should probably split in about 10 minutes. I'm just looking at the time. I should probably go and I got these songs to learn for the vampire musical. It's actually true.
Not the porch photo, Doug. He's texting me. I can send you the porch photo. Well, you could, because that'd be me rocking out at a family reunion. Oh, no, that's me. No. Now, let's find one without me shirtless on stage. That'd be even better. Nope, that's cool beard.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you can compete with my hair level. So Doug's pointed the wrong person.
There we go.
There you go, Pete.
What's that? Oh, there we go. Oh, dude.
Oh, it's not focused.
Pretty much a dead ringer. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. I think you should do it again this year.
Well, that's what I said to him too.
Why don't you do a Motorhead tribute?
Bring back.
I would love to be in a Motorhead.
All right, yeah. The infamous photo Doug is talking about is me playing an acoustic set at my family reunion on a deck, but still got to have the foot up because there's no monitors.
It's pretty awesome, man. It's a good look. We need a name for that guy. Like, I don't know, what's his name? We need an alternate name.
It's Ben's alter ego, right?
Yeah, like Josephus or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. They called me Dr. Sleaze on stage a few times. Because I'd be shirtless, got a little sloppy drunk on occasion. I was the rhythm player. We were playing a drop D. What the hell?
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, it was very Godsmack-esque. Played all the clubs in and around Toronto, up and down the 401.
I know, less Canuck Lake.
Dr. Sleaze.
Yeah. Going to Shane says the mutton chops, yes. Or as one of my best friends, Richie, says, you look like you were there at the signing of Confederation for Canada.
I was going to say, like, the American reference would be like, you look like you're from the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right. Not the right side.
Exactly. Wow, Dr. Sleaze, someone said.
Yeah. There was leather pants involved.
It was a leather pants incident, right?
Yeah. Playing Les Pauls so low you would never get buckle rash because they were below the belt line.
I was telling Pete before you came on tonight that I work with school age kids at a school, but we had a field trip today. So when you can get paid to like do canoeing and archery and stream studies and kickball, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty damn good.
Definitely.
Like this one kid was like, I'm hot. I'm like, dude, you're not in school. You're playing archery on like a Monday. Like, this is good. Like, please don't complain.
It's all relative.
Exactly.
Well, I think as we wrap things up, anything we could look forward to coming up on your channel soon, Pete? Maybe
on my channel, let me think about that.
Demos in the works.
Eventually, I'll do a video of this board that I've just plugged in here. The board that I used for the gig on the weekend. A couple things are going to change on this board, so I will do that first, and then I'm chirping this wireless. That's going to happen, and probably go with a Shure, and switch up the delay and a couple other things. So that's going to happen. But then I'll do a video of that, and because a lot of folks have asked about it, like, what Gore-Tex? How are you doing this rig? And so I'll do that. There is a gentleman that contacted me, because it just has to be all Van Halen all the time, evidently. But there's a gentleman that contacted me recently that has an amplifier that you can see in the club days of Van Halen in Eddie's rig. It's a white Marshall. That's 74, 75, 76, that era. And evidently the story is this amp changed hands a few times, but it was Chris Holmes after Eddie. They used to trade gear all the time, I guess, because they were friends, the Destroyer story and all that.
Sure.
So evidently this is one of Ed's favorite amps to use in the sort of 75, 76, 77 period in the clubs and stuff like that. But then it got traded away to Chris for something else, Echoplex or something. I can't remember. And I guess as the guy tells the story, he says Ed always really loved it, and he sort of was bummed that he did that and always regretted trading it. But anyway, that's what happened to it. And then it changed hands from Chris to maybe the guy that this guy got it from, or maybe this guy, I just can't remember. And that he documented it all in this email today, and it seems like it's pretty legit and a great story. So he's got the amp, and he's like, if you'd ever want to make a video of it, Ed used to use it in the club days. I'm like, that's a pretty cool story. So I'd like to have him tell the story and maybe make the video, and maybe have Dave go through it on the bench, say, oh, is there anything unique about it, or
sure,
just it might make a nice amps in the zone video.
I agree. I think that would be cool. Definitely.
Yeah, old Marshall 100 watt. So
well, we'll wrap things up here, Pete. If you just hold the line here as we wrap things up, and Tom, Terry, awesome as always. Thanks everybody that tuned in tonight. Special shout out again to the patrons and the channel members. Links down below if you want to help support the channel. Appreciate it. Shout out to the mod squad, although the mod squad's basically on screen tonight, so that happened. Yep. Terry put a link to Pete's channel in the chat in case you live under a rock and aren't aware of who Pete is. Just saying. I don't know.
Jimmy says, how come you're not subscribed to my channel? Come on.
It'd be cool if you would.
Yeah, please.
Actually, Jimmy would be the type of guy who'd walk up to you and probably say, so what's tripping your fantasy?
The internet, man. Get off the internet, man. Play your guitar, man.
There you go. I'll be live on Nez Says Thursday night, Nas Canucks tomorrow night, busy week. And Sunday, Sean Pierce Johnson joins me for the Sunday night hang. And of course, a special Saturday, Pete Thorn live at 2:30ish Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, Saturday. So be good to each other. Hold those doors open. Let that lady in ahead of you in traffic. Do good things. The good things will happen to you. Why? Doug's wife's real. So happy tone chasing. And of course, don't litter.